Hey, so what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and who do I have next to me here?
What's up? It's Devin here, like always. Paranoid Coder. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty well, man. It's going well. How's it going for you?
It's good, good. Like always, life's moving fast, but we're here. I'm excited. Got
Exactly.
a ton of good topics.
Exactly.
Too many.
And speaking of excitement, we also have a exciting guest on here. Does our guest want to introduce himself?
Yeah, I'm Demetrius, also known as ModernVintageGamer. You can call me MVG on this stream there, Mr. Mario. But great to be here, guys. Big fan of the show and your channel. And yeah, it's awesome to be here. We got so many awesome topics to go through tonight, so I'm really excited about it.
We truly do, and thank you for that. No, I'm a huge fan of your channel as well too. I initially got into your channel from it was the video that like you initially did that blew up. It was about the original Xbox, or it was like the original Xbox is still awesome, either 2017 or 2018. What year was that?
2017, and
okay.
I guess I need to go back and update it for this year. But yeah, that video
totally
just absolutely killed it. And you know, I don't really know why it did, but there's so many fantastic and amazing memories of the original Xbox that I have, and you know, obviously there's so many people out there that share the same sentiment as I do, and it really got people, you know, their nostalgia and all back together again. So it was an awesome video to make. I really enjoyed putting it together.
I believe it. What but before we get into this, just in case there's anybody who does not know who you are, I guess I mean, obviously you have a channel and all that, but what is your specialty? What all do you do?
Yeah, my channel is a tech channel, really revolving around retro. There's a bit of modern stuff in there, and but generally speaking, it's a 8/16, 32-bit, sometimes later than that, retro tech channel where I like to really dive into the hardware and tear things apart and take you through what things look like internally. But there's always a emphasis or a focus on the gaming side. So, you know, I love playing games. I was a gamer when I grew up in my teenage years and when I was a kid, and I still play games today. So, you know, if I'm going to show something on my channel, there's always going to be some games that I want to show off as well. So, yeah, it's a bit of fun. You know, there's a lot of things going on. I got a lot of things in the pipeline. So if anyone out there is not checked out my channel, please go check it out. It's yeah, hopefully you'll like it.
Yes, and his channel is down below in the description if you're checking this out on YouTube. So awesome. Feel free to check this out. By the way, I just want to say, ModChat, thank you so much for the $5 donation already.
Dude, coming through.
This guy always comes through.
Yeah, much appreciated. I mean, it's going to become too much of a regular thing if you don't do it next time. It's going to be weird, right? I mean, gee.
I know.
Just kidding. Thanks.
I know, man.
Thanks so much.
Nobody has to donate, but we always appreciate it. So
awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyways, y'all want to get to these topics here?
Yeah, man. We've got a big list to get through, so let's...
We do.
No time to dilly-dally.
Yeah. Our first one, we're going to be talking about the first topic that is here, that is Fusée Gelée. So what are you all thinking on this so far?
Well, I mean, do we want to kind of address just the big floodgates?
Absolutely. And even though like we're checking out this article on Wololo about it, I'm totally cool just kind of fast forwarding down to April 2018, where there was the Haxing Day, where everything blew up. And Sir Mitz, thank you for the $10 donation. Damn.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. This is early on the stream, but much appreciated. Glad to see so many people popping in so quick.
Jeebus.
It's going to be a good stream. People know.
Hopefully.
People know what's going on.
We woke.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is definitely the one to be at. So it's good to have everyone here, and thanks for being so supportive.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Anyways, which one of you wants to take this one, talking about what happened that fateful April day, like almost shortly after ModChat?
Well, I don't. I mean, I almost want to like. What were you guys? What happened? What were you guys doing? Did you guys like kind of follow what was going on?
Coming back to the US, so I was kind of out of pocket for a while. So when I kind of landed in Dallas, I kind of checked my phone, and there was all this excitement and all these posts going on about, you know, the Switch being hacked and everything. So I kind of missed the window a little bit. So I think one of you guys should really kind of cover it, because I kind of got in a little bit later. So.
I mean, I'm cool. I'll go like just kind of my perspective on
it.
I remember I was going through Twitter, and basically I can't remember who I saw, but basically one person was like, well, if everyone's already going to be leaking things, I might as well just release my work in progress thing I have now. And I was just like, what are you talking about? What do you mean everybody's already? And like faster than I could even look and find the things that other people were talking about, it seemed that new stuff was rolling out. So what was the date? Do we have like a date when everything kind of busted wide open?
It's saying right here, you know, just looking at this. So around April 23rd, a dump of the Tegra boot ROM was published anonymously on the intertubes. That data in itself wasn't useful for the end user, but skilled hackers could use it to start looking for the vulnerabilities that had been secretly used by the 3 hacking teams. This in regards to Fail Overflow, Reswitch, and Executor.
Right.
This was big, and I made the assumption it could precipitate some of the carefully planned releases, but that was not an exploit yet. It just made it easier for lots of people to start looking for one. However, that leak triggered a bunch of follow-up releases from various sources. Some hackers started sharing scripts to help debugging the boot ROM with popular reverse engineering tools, among other things. Then less than 24 hours after the boot ROM leak, an anonymous source shared details of the recovery mode exploit used by Fail Overflow, Reswitch, and as far as we know, Team-Xecuter. So they end up posting about this in a paste bin, and they said the cat was out of the bag. And this is the effect, and this had the effect of a bomb. Immediately, Reswitch K. Timken released her work along with a detailed write-up on the vulnerability, quickly followed by Fail Overflow. Fail Overflow stated that they actually had secret plans to release all of their work on April 25th due to their disclosure policy. K. Timken revealed that the planned date for the Fusée Gelée exploit was June 15th. The releases also confirmed that these hacking groups had been using the exact same vulnerability. For us regular people, it was an epic discovery to see how easily one can boot the Nintendo Switch in recovery mode and how that could then be leveraged to load unsigned code onto the device. So April 24th was when this happened.
Yeah, no doubt. And it was, like I had mentioned, a lot of this sparked out of like one big leak, and a lot of people just kind of were triggered off of it. Yeah. And even at like this message here on that that paste bin that you just mentioned at the end here, it says, you know, they're going to go into the details on what it is they're doing. You know, even here it says Switch needs volume up pressed and the Joy-Con pin shorted, which we have more details on probably a little bit later that we'll get into. Yeah. And even says 2 reswitched, Fail Overflow, Switch Brew, names basically all the major teams, and says, reminder, real hackers hack in silence. You all suck. Game over. It's a pretty bold statement.
Bang, bang. Shots fired.
Bang, bang.
Bottle it down a little bit there, I think, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I saw a lot of this unfolding, and so far, like, it hasn't ended in a disaster. We're actually seeing some really cool stuff. But it did make me a little worried. It's like, man, this scene has like started out so well. I would really hate for people to get really salty and for some people to, you know what I mean, end up getting pissed off and quit or offended or get some of their stuff, you know, leaked and, you know, have some adverse side effects.
But from what I see here, nothing has been leaked.
No.
Yeah, no other code has been maliciously stolen.
But it was more like almost like a, you know, whether it was actually communicated among the teams or not. It seems kind of like there was a kind of like a nonverbal agreement, like let's not all leak this stuff until it's more mature or release it or whatever.
Right.
And somebody kind of went rogue.
You know, I don't think it's going to deter anyone away. In fact, I think right now, coming up with a solution that is persistent is really the next step. And whoever kind of comes out of the gate with that solution where you don't have to keep rejigging your Switch every time to get the exploit to boot is really going to be, you know, the leader, I guess, of whoever's working on that. So I think everyone is still in it big time to get there first. I think right now it's more than a proof of concept. There's no doubt about that, but there's still some work to be done in order to get to the next level. So I think it'll be very exciting.
Absolutely, because you still need, I mean, we have complete access on it, but you still need that kind of soft booting method to get in there. So you still need that exploit. It's not like you just have this on boot, unfortunately, with, you know, no other effort. Like if there's like a PSP or PS3 custom firmware, you still have to go through those few steps.
So, and I don't want to get too deep into this just yet because we'll be talking about it a little bit later. Sure. But just based on some wording, because we haven't seen an actual product, you know, in our own hands, it seemed like Team-Xecuter might actually have something persistent.
Yes, and we will be talking about that later on. Like, we have to talk about it.
So,
yeah, I'm interested in that discussion.
So just like a lot of this, I don't think people realize how far along people were with this, being able to work on, you know, this jig and, you know, the recovery mode exploits and whatnot. I don't think people realize how far along we were until it all started coming out. So who knows? We may be closer to a persistent custom firmware than we realize. But before we get, I mean, so how do we want to tackle this? There was a lot that came out. We have some topics in here. Do we want to give the viewers or listeners a quick overview of this whole thing? Because we have a few points laid out, but I don't want to get too deep into the topics without kind of laying out maybe.
No. I think that's a good idea. MVG, what about you?
Yeah, go for it, man. I think it's an awesome idea to basically give everyone an overview of what's been going on for sure.
So yeah, there's a lot of developments. There's a lot of things. We're not going to cover them all. This is going to be probably really layman. If either of you two guys have something to put in, some input on this, please just talk over me. But yeah, so we'll try and kind of break down, you know, from start to finish, the steps that it takes and kind of the you know, the general overview of being able to, you know, hack any switch on any firmware, any model that's out right now. Yeah. So essentially, like we've kind of mentioned already, it all starts with this jig that you can buy online or you can make yourself. And it really, all you need is a piece of metal, so a paper clip or something like that will work. And these jigs that you buy online are 3D printed and they already have this metal installed in the proper place. If you buy a 3D printed jig, you have the benefit of being able to just slide it into the Joy-Con railing, the right one to be specific. And if you essentially short out the first of the 10th pin at the bottom of the Joy-Con railing.
Is it pins 9 and 10?
It's 1 and 10.
It's
1 and 10.
Also do 9 and 10. And I didn't mean to interrupt, but I've got my little ghetto jig here, which is just a piece of tinfoil, and it's bridging 9 and 10.
Yeah, because both of you two have done it. I haven't done it yet. I ordered my jigs though.
Yeah, I ordered my jig as well, but I kind of got a little impatient waiting for it to get delivered. So I just thought I'd just, you know, do the tinfoil trick, and the tinfoil trick actually works pretty well. So,
well, I'll have to look into the tinfoil trick. Maybe we can talk offline a little, because I did a paper clip, and I got it lined up once, and it's kind of hard to see because the pins are really small. I did get to do it. It's kind of a frustrating experience where if you don't get it, then it boots up and you have to wait to power down. And I did it several times, but that is interesting. I had not heard that 9 and 10 works.
Yeah.
So
no, that was the initial one here. I even have it up on screen showing what Fail Overflow had shown with this, which they jokingly, there's a true, but it's pretty tongue in cheek. It's saying, you know, Switch X Pro compatible with all firmware versions, SARless technology, no disassembly required.
Right.
Yeah. So they had this up on here, and also they said this is available at your local hardware store.
Right. Yeah. So, but I do believe the jigs that people are buying, they're all hitting pins 1 and 10 from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ones I'm getting, yes, they are, because it uses a paperclip.
Right. Right. So a couple different ways to get it, but essentially you're shorting out these pins where the Joy-Con connects to the Switch. So you're taking off your right Joy-Con, you hook up your jig while your Switch is powered off. And then if you power it on by holding the volume up and power button and everything is lined up correctly, you will not see anything. Actually, it will be a black screen and you'll be in recovery mode. So if you don't see the boot logo, if you don't see it booting up, you're good. And then essentially you use Fusée Gelée. Am I saying that right?
Fusée Gelée, yeah.
Fusée Gelée.
That's appropriate.
So you run Fusée Gelée. You can use a web launcher that's already hosted on a number of websites. Hopefully, maybe we can provide some kind of a link. You upload a payload to this website that essentially is kind of launched on your phone. Or not your phone, your Switch. I don't know the exact technical details there of how everything works, but you run a payload from your computer on your phone or even an Android device. I don't know if anyone's tried that.
You need some device that can push a payload to your Switch when it's in RCM mode.
Right. So you used an Android phone?
I use my phone and my Switch, and I just use a USB-C cable, and it works fine. In fact, I'm going to be making a video on it at some point, just kind of showing you how I did it. So
yes,
awesome.
That is so awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Easy. Because, you know, when I saw the exploit, and then I heard that, you know, any Switch is exploitable, I thought, you know what, I'm going to try this myself and really see how difficult this is or how easy this is, and it's trivial. It really is.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, whether you use your phone or, you know, a PC or something like that, you load this payload and you basically get a couple options where you can boot into what's currently a pretty rudimentary custom firmware that I don't know if there's anything much more on the one that I used other than homebrew launcher support. But
and which one did you use?
I can't remember.
Was it hekate?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I used as well.
Okay. I'm waiting for atmosphere.
So that was like the forked version that was like firmware 5.0 compatible with the homebrew launcher. So there were some slight modifications that needed to be made to make it compatible with more modern firmwares. But yeah, that was the one I used. So as we'll get into here shortly, there's some other custom firmwares in development. There's even a few other. Fusée Gelée, I believe, was not only like the web launcher, but is also like kind of the bootloader for this whole thing, I believe. Yep. So there's a few bootloaders, a few custom firmwares in the works. Well, we're going to try to cover some of them here in the show.
Yes, yeah.
But that is kind of the gist of everything. That's how we are. Custom firmware, whatever you boot into, whatever payload you run will persist over sleep. So you can, hit the power button on your Switch, come back to it, it should be good. But if your Switch dies or you power it off completely, you will have to reinitiate the custom firmware currently.
My experience is a little flaky. And that's something that we'll definitely get fixed over time, but it works. I'll say 85% of the time, but there's that 1% where you just have to rejig the whole thing again and make it work. So
my thing is, because we were talking about a solution, without the payload and such. That's what I'm looking forward to, because I'm very much a person who I hate sleep mode and hibernate and all that stuff. I want my stuff on or off. I don't want it in standby mode.
Is that just because you're a Windows user? And you've been scarred from sleep mode for years?
No, not even that. On Windows, I don't use sleep mode. I use hibernate if I have to, but that's on any device. Sure, I just notice, you'll run into issues and such if you keep your stuff in sleep mode or in standby mode all the time. So I prefer to just have my stuff off if possible.
Yeah. Sometimes this MacBook hits a month without turning off.
I believe it.
Yeah.
This is something weird about game consoles, though. When you put them in sleep mode and you kind of got a game playing, sometimes when you come back to them, they just, the frame rate cuts in half, and there's always some issue, so
you get memory leaks and all that other stuff and blah, blah, blah.
Or I think Switch has cooked itself.
That happened that happened. The only time I on purpose was keeping things in standby mode was one summer I was living somewhere where I had 2.5 meg down and up. And with these game consoles and their like 6 or 8 gigabyte updates, it was taking me about an hour to download a gigabyte. So I had to keep them downloading my updates and stuff while I was sleeping and while I was at work, just so I could use them when I got off work.
Hey, man, sleep is a necessary evil in this day and age sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Mr. Murray. I'm not a fan. Never have been.
Yeah, I bite the bullet sometimes and put my thing through sleep mode for like a month, but every once in a while, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
But should we go ahead and like kind of get into the meat of everything now that we've gotten the overview out of the way?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, so I'm gonna leave it up to you. You kind of pick off. We kind of chipped away at some of this, so
sure. So initially, what was it? We're grabbing this from Max Console here, and this is in regards to Fusée Gelée being released, which this is what we discussed and such already a little bit, but I just kind of want to briefly touch up on a bit more of a official thing here, I guess you can say. Let me go ahead and find it as well too. And this was, the screenshot that was shared from Kate Timken showing, everything booting up and such.
Team-Xecuter developer, by the way.
So yes. But no, this was when she ended up releasing this. It was initially, as we said, supposed to be released on June 15th, 2018, but it came out much, much earlier. And this was, correct me if I'm wrong, the reason why I'm kind of touching up on this is because this is where the jig came from, where I believe in this PDF, she did document and say, hey, this is how you were able to get into RCM. This is the button combination you need, and you can solve this by creating this 3D printed little jig.
You might be right. I think that's correct. I'm not gonna don't quote me on it.
I'm quoting you on it.
Don't quote you on it. But yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
But no, this is a really well documented PDF. I mean, it's actually kind of interesting. I haven't really read through all of it.
I haven't delved into it because there's just been so much.
Yeah, I know. But it's really interesting, actually. I want to actually go through. I'm not going to understand half of it, but I'd love to go through and actually really get into the nitty gritty of this because it's got a ton of stuff, really low level hardware stuff, memory-oriented things. It's really cool to see. And this is the kind of stuff that I think is really good. I really like to see the scene coming out, even if there is a little bit of drama with leaks and stuff like that, or whatever you want to call it. It's nice to see this like super well-documented stuff and not people in some silo that have like all the domain knowledge.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So siloing knowledge is bad. Yeah, the other releases I want to get to as well too on here were, let me see, I'll go ahead and share this. This is for Fusée Gelée, the official GitHub. This is where it was released. And Fuse Launcher, it's saying Fuse Launcher is a proof of concept arbitrary code loader for a variety of Tegra processors, which takes advantage of CVE-2018-6242 to gain arbitrary code execution and load small payloads over USB. And it's talking about, how to launch it and all that other stuff. But the other thing is, we've talked about this quite a bit, Fusée Gelée here. The other thing that was also released, as we mentioned for Fail Overflow, was their, now how am I supposed to say this? Shoffle 2?
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to say it.
Trying to figure out how to pronounce these words.
Shuffle.
Yeah. So in short, this is their boot ROM exploit that was mentioned, as well as a Linux loader. Now, I do like the disclaimer here, which says if your switch catches fire or turns into an Ouya, it's not our fault. Yeah. It's stupidly easy to blow up embedded platforms like this with bad software. Example, all voltages are software controlled. We already caused temporary damage to one LCD panel with bad power sequencing code. Seriously. Do not complain if something goes wrong. On the other hand, this exploit probably works on the Ouya.
Right. So with that kind of disclaimer, I don't know if you want to try it, but you could. But yeah, that's because the Ouya has like NVIDIA hardware in it and has apparently the same kind of exploits. But so what this is, just to try and keep everyone in check, because I know I got confused. This is essentially, so you have Fusée Gelée, which is a bunch of files, a boot ROM exploit that you'll put on your Switch's SD card, and that's what loads when you boot into RCM mode, I believe.
That's correct.
Right. Okay. And then there's the Fusée Gelée launcher, which is like a web app or a Python program that then deploys the payload. And then there's Shoff-L2, which is separate from both of those, and it's a replacement boot ROM exploit. And this is particularly targeted towards a Linux loader, essentially.
Yes.
That's the way that I've always understood it as well. It's kind of Fail Overflow's, version of the same exploit, but it's booting into a Linux based environment.
Right. And you were saying, you were warning people that because of that, they might not want to use it. But Devin, you might want to use it.
Wait, when did I say that?
I think you said it just like about a minute or two ago when I was talking about the disclaimer.
I said
there.
On the Ouya.
Yes. Oh, okay, on the Ouya. Okay, I was thinking just in regards to not using this, but I was going to say, I know you might have been joking if you said that, but the reason why you could use it, or you should, is because you can use a Linux loader to load up Dolphin on your Switch.
Yeah.
Which is what we're showing right here. So
clever segue.
People have gotten Dolphin running on here because people were joking about, playing GameCube games. And then there were several people that showed evidence and they're like, yeah, we didn't really tweak too much. And we're getting games to run about 20 or 25 frames a second with pretty much little to no optimization.
Right. So I can't remember how many episodes ago, but we did show off basically a demo, I believe it was from Fail Overflow, where they were running Linux and running the KDE desktop environment.
Yes.
And it was like, it's a full-fledged desktop on your Switch, which means I can't remember. Do you know if the Switch is 64-bit? Do either of you know?
Yeah,
wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, 64-bit. Okay. That means every single modern Linux application can run on this, including every emulator. And with the advent of a lot of the Raspberry Pi stuff, I think emulation has been doing pretty well.
Yes, and since you said the emulator thing, one thing I wanted to mention is because you can take your Switch and you can run Linux on it, and then you can run emulators that are designed for Linux. You can run Yuzu, a Switch emulator, on the Switch.
Oh man, that is I had not thought about it.
It's been demonstrated. There's a photo that I'm showing on screen right now. Yes, someone took the Switch and they used Shoffle 2 to launch Linux and then load up Yuzu through that.
I know this is unprofessional, but for technical reasons, I can't see your screen on my computer.
Oh, okay.
Let me.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Oh my goodness. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. That is fantastic.
It's like some Inception type deal going on here. We're just going layers.
I love it.
Switchception. If we had
cool name
titles, like dedicated titles that were a little less descriptive, that would totally be the title.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, you know what? If I turn my computer into a Switch emulator, I bet the thing wouldn't bend or bake itself.
True.
So maybe it would be a better Switch than my Switch.
Yeah.
Sorry for your luck. My goodness.
It's all good. I got my Switch back, by the way, everyone. I got my Switch back.
Is it bent?
No.
Really?
Yes.
You look so happy.
I know. I missed it. I legitimately missed it.
Dude, it's just in time too, right?
Yeah. I had to send it back twice this time around. Because the first time they didn't fully fix the issue, so I had to send it back again. I had to send it to Redmond, to actual Nintendo HQ this time, because don't know.
Oh man, I wish you all the luck in the world.
Well, thank you.
This is the best time to get into it. So hopefully they at least will survive you, at least getting your jig so you can experiment.
Well, that one I'm gonna keep untouched because I have two switches. So my 3.0 switch is going to be the one that I'm gonna jig up and stuff, and that one's in perfect condition.
No, I know, and then we talked, and I think I'm gonna look at prices and just compare, just because I don't know, but like now I'm having a hard time figuring out what Switch to buy for my second console.
I think you should just go out and buy a second Switch so you could at least have the pleasure of, when you wake up and you're about to leave and you need to take a Switch with you, you could be like, you know what? I don't feel like taking this Switch with me. I'm going to take the other one with me today.
True.
I think it's pretty fair to say that having two Switches, one for homebrew and emulators and hacked firmware is one, and then another one that's kind of stuck, because I think it's a pretty good assumption that Nintendo are taking a lot of notice on what's going on right now, and they may not be able to fix the hardware issue in this particular revision of the hardware, but you damn well know they're going to start blacklisting and doing what they can really to get consoles offline. So I think it's a good idea having a backup Switch just in case.
And not only just for the Switch. I mean, I would say this because we're talking about it now, but this has been something that's been for all systems. Really, last generation, people got really spoiled because you were able to take your modded PS3s and 360s and even, the 3DS and the Vita and PSP online. I know I'm mixing up gens there a little bit, but you were able to do all that stuff. But even from the beginning, like it's always been recommended. Like if you want online and you want your hacks, get two systems. The hacked version stays offline. The legit version stays online and stays fully updated. And if you're one of those people that says, I only want hacks, then you only need one system.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And my belief is too, also because a lot of people also do this and they complain when they get banned. And my belief is if you are going to put your main stuff with your account that you spent $2,000 on your modified system and you're taking it on that closed network, it's not your call at that point. You're choosing to risk a ban there.
Yeah.
Yep. And on top of all that, I don't think we have anything kind of in our list of topics here about this. So I don't want to dive too deep into it. I don't have all the facts or as much as I even would like, really. But there has been rumors that there is like evidence of a Switch hardware revision already kind of like being in the works. There
has to be
code names that have leaked out. So that this is really where I've kind of made the decision like within this month, even probably the next 2 weeks, probably even more realistically week, I have to decide whether I want to get a 3.0 Switch or not.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that I think 5.0 is going to be very well supported. There was still like a struggle to get Homebrew launcher working on 5.0.
Right.
So there still is differences.
I was telling Devin my belief, unless you're really willing to pay out of the nose for it, just go out, get a used Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't say used earlier, but I just said like go out and get a Switch just now.
Yeah. No. And that'll be a decision too. Do I want used or do I want new and fancy? Because used would probably be fine, but
used will be fine.
Yeah. I don't know. Probably should move on, but we're
so passionate.
Oh man. Yeah. It's good stuff. these are good problems to have.
Yeah. Now, our next topic, the one we have up here, I have not utilized this. I'm quite sure both of you have, though, at least in some capacity. So
sounds like it.
Yeah,
I'd be more trusting if one of you all took this topic.
For sure, man. I've done a deep dive into this, so I kind of got really into this whole thing. In fact, yesterday. So yesterday, for some reason, I decided that I was going to download the open source software development kit called DevKit Pro and just compile up a couple of Switch apps and see how the whole process works and what's involved and how many hoops that you have to jump through in order to get this stuff to work. And DevKit Pro, which has been out for a long time, it's obviously worked for 3DS and GameCube and Wii and the older Nintendo systems, which is the software development kit that Wintermute has developed for such a long time. I mean, that thing is established, and that works really, really well with the Switch. So what I actually did, this is like an exclusive on this podcast for you guys. So I compiled up, I don't know if you can see that very well. I compiled up Outrun on the Switch. And so I got this up and running in about, I'll say about 4 or 5 hours yesterday. So
very nice.
If anyone's a developer and they want to know, how hard is it to get apps to work or Homebrew to work, it's pretty trivial because the tools are there, guys. So now, while I will say that a lot of things still aren't working, like the touch support's not working, and there's obviously other things that still aren't working in the library, I mean, they're going to come for sure. So, there's so much excitement with the Homebrew and the emulators on the Switch right now, and you kind of alluded to that before with the Linux stuff, but the tools are there, and it's really just a matter of people downloading them and starting to play around with them. I mean, I was quite surprised how easy it was to get some stuff up and running on the Switch, and I think that will really make a lot of people, especially developers, interested in getting into the Homebrew and emulation side. So, I think the hekate, whatever you want to call it, the fork they've got there is really good, and I think it's just going to continue to improve over time.
Yeah, no doubt. Number of episodes ago now, I think it might be a couple more than a few, when Reswitch kind of did their first big release, it was very obvious that the focus on development tools and ease of development for anyone, with homebrew emulators and a good solid library out of the gate, this, I think the sky is the limit here.
For sure.
The amount of stuff that is just coming out so early, that's pretty phenomenal that you're able to port that over just seemingly obviously 4 or 5 hours is an investment, but doesn't sound like you broke your back doing it.
Definitely not.
So,
and I was a little strategic because I know that this is actually Cannonball, which is the kind of Outrun engine, and you just basically feed it the main Outrun ROMs, and it basically just works. I know this code compiles up really cleanly on a lot of different environments, so I kind of picked it strategically as one that I knew that was going to compile as fast as possible. And really, I was just trying to see how much time I had to fight with just the development tools in order to get this to work, but it actually was really, really seamless and a very smooth transition. So, that's very encouraging for people that want to develop homebrew for the Switch, and because it's a very easy path to get things to work.
And it's because now a lot of these scenes, they're wanting the developers who are working on all this stuff, they want the toolkits to be available to these people, to any homebrew developers, because they know that's how it's going to be. Like, if you give developers such as yourself or Devin the proper toolkits and everything to work with, some really awesome stuff will come out. If not, people are going to have to find some ill-gotten software development kits and mess around with it. They're going to have a little bit more trouble, and the main focus will more just kind of shift over to piracy, because it's like, oh, what can we do? Play games. What about the homebrew? Not so much, which we are going to discuss this later on in regards to the PS4, but that's one thing I've been really disappointed with like the PS4 4.55 stuff, for example. When I updated and did everything, I was like, yeah, the process is cleaner, but at the time I did it, I was like, there's like literally 2 pieces of homebrew I can find.
Right.
Yeah.
One of them being a test app.
When it comes down to it, it's just becomes too many barriers for entry, right? One is there's not something official, which if it's not official means there's going to be very little documentation because Sony or Nintendo own that documentation.
Yeah.
So you're going to be kind of flying by the seat of your pants or looking for third-party documentation. And on top of that, we've talked about this before in a previous show. If you use an SDK that was like maybe leaked from one of these companies like Nintendo or Sony, your binaries that you compile with that are technically not legal.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that is just yet another barrier of entry where someone's just like, look, you want me to, why would I go to this thing, make this app with some undocumented SDK that could get me in legal trouble, especially when we have like stuff like mobile phones that have like these crazy fleshed out SDKs. I mean, we live in a different time now.
Exactly.
For sure. Ghost Mirror asked the question in the chat, does it compile with GCC? The answer is yes. So it's all GCC based and CMake based. So if you're familiar with those types of compilers, you should be able to get your head around the Switch development stuff.
Lily, not now. Aww.
Which is pretty awesome. So that means it's going to be very well supported on pretty much all platforms. So
chill.
And we got Lily in the house.
Lily in the house. Lily literally in the house. Yeah, she's just kind of coming over,
smacking her butt against my chair and moving me. But yeah, that's pretty awesome. Kind of coming back to the actual the release that we were talking about. Hekate. I don't know.
I say hekate.
Hekate. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's like I believe this is a bootloader as well as a kind of payload, like, custom firmware-ish thing.
Yeah. That's what I'm seeing, at least. I haven't used it myself yet, but...
So it's kind of based on some of the work that the Atmosphere team has done. And even here, maybe, see, this is another thing that's swaying my decision. They say, don't upgrade to 5.0.x for this. Really, please don't. It's not worth it. Wait for proper Atmosphere, which will be 100 times better.
Well, and the thing is with this is that this one was compiled specifically for 5.0.x.
Correct. So I don't know what that means exactly. I don't know if there's a lot of benefits to 3.0.
Everyone has been saying the lower, the better.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's just a general rule of thumb when you're talking about hacking. Mm-hmm. So, but, the scene is moving so quick. It's hard to honestly tell.
Right.
Now, all the information.
I did want to ask you all, because I know you had messed with this, both of you, but the only Switch hacking I have done has been on my 3.0.0 Switch, where you have to run it all through, the DNS server and all that stuff and launch it that way. Now, it looks like the methods of launching here are much cleaner and faster and more reliable, but it looks like the homebrew support and stuff is still just about the same. They're like, we were trying some emulators and just, low frame rates, games not working too well, blah, blah, blah. And does that seem to be about the same right now in terms of just the homebrew that's currently out?
I do not know. I did not run any homebrew. I got into the homebrew launcher earlier today.
Okay, which the homebrew launcher is fine. That's been stable.
Yeah, my answer to that is I don't really know either. So I've played with the homebrew launcher, but I haven't actually looked at any other emulators. I kind of just got the development kit and just went crazy myself to see what would happen. Now, the thing that I just showed you is actually running on 5. So my stuff's kind of running pretty okay on 5 at the moment, but I'm going to start looking at what's out there and seeing what's out there and how it all works, because I'm kind of interested in that as well.
Yeah, because in all reality, I mean, I've been saying this from the beginning, the Switch is like the best emulation machine possible. You can get all those going and stable. Oh, man.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. Nice.
That'd be cool.
I don't know. We're going to talk about the PS4. I've still got...
I guess we're talking about it from a portable standpoint.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. We
standpoint, yeah, it's untouchable for sure.
Yeah.
From a quality foreshadowing standpoint.
True.
PS4 still looks good.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Do either of you guys really have a whole lot more to say on this? Essentially, this is just another release in the mass amount of things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not that we're underplaying it. It's just there's so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the
guys, we're not even halfway done with our list. More content for you all.
Yeah. I mean, the takeaway here is there's so much more coming, and it's going to come fast. So, everything we're talking about today may just be completely obsolete like next week, maybe even like by Friday. I don't even know yet. So, I think you'll find there's going to be so much activity and movement over the next couple of weeks, and it's exciting.
I mean, based on the fact that the last episode we did was on April 18th, and then April 23rd and 24th, all of this stuff happened. Then that is completely true.
That literally happened last episode. So yeah, I believe it.
No, we started documenting all this stuff very early. We were doing this mid-April because we had to.
It was pretty awesome. So yeah, here's to hopefully another good month. But honestly, I don't know if we can. I don't know if we can. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. There you go.
I don't know.
Drink water. Just water in this cup, right?
I don't know if we can keep up with this every month, though.
Oh no.
So here's to more Switch stuff coming out. But you know, breaks are nice.
Yes, breaks are nice. And speaking of breaks, that doesn't really have much to do with this, but we do have an article from Kotaku, which I don't believe we have ever had them featured on here.
Really?
I don't believe so.
Huh.
I don't believe so.
I don't know. I find that kind of surprising, but okay. I guess a lot of
they don't really cover modding news all that much.
Sometimes,
only if it's something that is really eye catching like this. But the title that they used here, which we're going to go into more detail with, is Nintendo hacker is trying to make a virtual console for his Switch. Which, in short, does he just have the front end for the SNES Classic running on here? Or is it the actual SNES Classic stuff that's running on here?
MVG, do you know for sure?
From what I can, this article is a little vague, I guess, in the way it
and they did that, and they did that for the masses,
right? But they talk about the reswitch tax. So obviously, he's exploiting his machine. So I kind of got the feeling that he's just coding this up with development tools, whether it's the official Nintendo SDK or the kind of open source ones. It's pretty hard to say, but I kind of got the feeling that he's just coding this himself. So
yeah, and I haven't looked at too much of how the Super Nintendo Classic code runs, but I mean basically those are little Linux boxes. So there is a possibility this could be legit software, I guess.
Yeah,
but it's not really in this article, at least from what I had found, it's not really well defined. But it does try to emulate the look at least.
I just showed the video here, and it's definitely it's not just the Google, for anybody who's watching. It's not just the Google screen share that's slowing it down. No, it does not perform too well. And he doesn't boot up any games, leading me to believe that this is just the front end. But his dream is to have this available on here because, as you all know, this is kind of some official news related to the Switch, but Nintendo is not planning to bring a virtual console to the Switch.
Yeah, not in the traditional meaning of the word.
True.
Seems like they're going to be releasing classic games under some kind of umbrella right now.
They've already done that as well too with Neo Geo.
Well, yeah, but we're also getting NES games with the Switch Online paid service.
Yes, which I think is really cool that you can play those multiplayer online.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Which is very much so different than the traditional virtual console that we've seen. Aside from, I believe the Pokemon games that were released on the 3DS actually had multiplayer. Which was pretty cool.
The original Pokemon games? Mm-hmm. Interesting. Online multiplayer?
I don't believe so. I think it was local. It was local multiplayer, but you could do trades and you could do battles.
Gotcha.
Even though it was a virtual console. So traditionally, the virtual console is basically an emulator wrapper for a single ROM.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I would love to find more information about it.
But right now, it's just the front end. It looks cool.
Yeah. If anybody
that's what it's for.
Listening or watching has any more information, any more low-level details, definitely send it to one of us because I'd be very curious to dig into this.
For sure. So we do have one more thing in regards to the Switch here. Who wants to take this?
Oh, man.
Team MVG, you sound like you had some opinions already. I'd love to hear you kick this off.
Yeah, and MVG and I we kind of discussed this a little bit on Twitter, but now we get to do voice of voices. This will be fun.
Yeah.
Well, so Team-Xecuter's got their product, and I think they kind of put out a video either today or yesterday, kind of showing it off. I think, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but the price is $35. Is that the price they're kind of trying to sell?
Kind of. So that comes into another thing. So it seems that Team-Xecuter is going to be selling two products for the Switch.
The hardware and the software.
Well, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So the hardware, I think, was $35 and the software was $25. Was it? Or like
correct?
20?
Yes.
So that comes to a total of, what is that, like $60?
No. The pro version of this is going to be the software with the hardware,
Right?
Or you can buy the software alone.
Oh,
so technically the hardware is, if you look at here, the hardware is worth $10, but the software they're valuing at $25.
Okay, I did not get that. That makes me feel a little bit better about the price, to be honest.
Right.
But still interesting. I don't think we've ever seen like an OS being sold separately.
I haven't seen it. So like, you know, in the communities I've been in, there's been multiple times that I've seen tools being sold, like software and mod tools and mod menus and such. But, and MVG, since you did Xbox stuff much earlier than I did, have you ever seen Executor monetize a OS or a BIOS or some type of firmware they did?
Not really. I mean, they did, you know, the custom kind of BIOSes back in the day, but
of course,
they were really just kind of piggybacking off the discoveries of kind of, you know, the people that kind of discovered these things. So yeah, I mean, this is interesting because the software piece of this is a little unprecedented for them. They really kind of just focus on the hardware side. So you know, my opinion of this is, look, Team-Xecuter have been around for a very long time, so they're not here for a quick cash grab and then they're going to move on. I mean, these guys have been here since the beginning of time. So, but having said that, you know, one thing I will say about those guys is they're very, very good at making a product for the average Joe that doesn't want to stick a paperclip down the side of their Switch and hope that, you know, they don't mess up their system. They've come up with a solution that kind of makes it easy for the, I'll say, the noob or the person that doesn't really want to get their hands dirty too much. And look, they've done that for such a long time, and they've kind of mastered that art form of marketing it and getting it out to the masses and making money from it. So love them or hate those guys. I mean, they're in the game and they're not going to go away. And I'm interested to see what they come up with. I mean, there's kind of rumors about copyrighted code that they've lifted from other groups and all these different things. So
okay. I think so. They're pretty much rumors at this point, but
yeah. So I was gonna say, like, just with Team-Xecuter overall, I do have some conflicting opinions. Compared to that, just respectfully, and it's more, I more remember them because I got in with the 360 scene, and it was more, they would always, I knew them for releasing a chip and then releasing another revision and another revision and another revision, and just kind of keep putting out these new pieces of hardware here and there. With this, I don't think they're gonna do it as much. It's okay to say it's a cash grab as well too, because it's a company. They're not doing it for the fun of it. They're not doing it for the community. They are a company, so they're looking to make money with this. What a lot of people haven't liked, however, is more just a lot of people are siding with like the straight up monetization of piracy on here, where it shows, you know, obviously game loading. So the video that I demonstrated on here for you all, they took a dongle that had the payload, presumably, and they popped it into the bottom of the Switch. They took the jig, popped it on the side, got the console into RCM mode, and then launched their custom firmware. Their custom firmware, you know, it launched just fine, except the only thing we know is that it has game loading, and it should have homebrew, but we didn't have any, like, the game seemed to load just fine. We didn't have any true homebrew demonstrations on there. So we don't know of those details of it all. But also a lot of people just don't like the fact that, I mean, here, since you have to pay for a license for the OS, they are going to be monetizing the OS. So it's an OS that's going to be designed to, you know, boot up, play homebrew, play games, which I'm sure the free stuff is going to do, just like we've seen with anything else on there. They're putting a license on there as well, too. A lot of people have really not liked that because it's like the main focus that they're kind of saying here is going to be game piracy, of course. And I don't have an opinion on that either way. I'll just be honest. But, you know, they're kind of putting that out there. But at the same time, then I just find it ironic, at least, that they are putting a license on that software that's going to be used as well, too. The main thing I see that they have down is a lot of people are saying, oh, you can just use a phone if you want this portable. I don't want to hook my phone up to my Switch every time I drop the payload.
I'm with you there, man.
I like the idea of that dongle. But I'm sure that's going to be reversed as well too. And just like there's going to be a cheap dongle that will be out. People are going to say, hey, buy this, take this bin file, flash it over. You got your payload on boot.
Literally all you need for that is like a very basic Linux board that fires up as soon as you plug it in and runs a Python script with a binary that's preloaded. I mean, it's small. I'll give them that. It's smaller than even like a Raspberry Pi Zero, but we're not talking about something. There's not even, unless you want to get their specific software, there's not even really any reverse engineering that needs to be done here.
This to me looks a lot like the Gateway 3DS of the Switch.
So what I was going to get into, it's interesting to see. So I remember when the Gateway 3DS really was kicking off and stuff like that, when I was really first getting into the scene, it got some flack, right? Especially with the card, because people were like, this is basically, I mean, after the card, when it got like the next major update after the card.
Like for 9.2?
I think so. When the card wasn't used for actual game
for
loading.
Like a year or two, they had a big step. Like for a year or two, Gateway was the only way.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying. So there was originally where like the Gateway flash card was actually like pretty critical to game loading.
Correct.
And then it basically like kind of slowly turned into a DRM tool to help you boot into their firmware. And in the beginning, like they didn't get nearly as much flack as Team-Xecuter is getting right now. There was a little bit of it, but it's just like now Team-Xecuter is releasing this. I think if they were releasing this and no one else had as much progress, people would just be like, well, we'll take what I can get.
And I agree with you on that. Right. If this was the only solution that was out for a year, then yes, I would agree with you.
Right. But everything's just coming out all at once. I don't think that's going to stop Team-Xecuter from doing what they're doing. But, you know, at the same time, like we saw with Gateway really, you know, slowly, surprisingly, but surely lost interest in the 3DS. Yeah. Literally, I think if we go to Gateway's website, they still have like their last blog post is like going to release the final beta of basically our ARM9 loader hacks.
Their initial ARM9 loader hacks is still in beta, and it was shit because at that point, like
breaking things.
It was like Gateway was like 4.5. Gateway was good, and then 9.2, it was still good. And then people figured out how to use the Gateway software without the card, and you were pretty much able to do everything, which was downgrading, dumping, etc., except for booting into the custom firmware without the card, which that's fine for the most part. Yeah. But then they ended up getting the bad rap when they had literally taken the ARM9 loader hacks code and such that was out there and integrated it, very shitty, mind you, into their software and had pretty much like undoubtedly the worst implementation and install of ARM9 loader hacks.
Yep.
And at that point, everyone just said like, dude, screw Gateway on this.
Right. And so, yeah, that's the one thing I would hate, to get this hardware, get this stuff, and then, you know, however long, you know, we have no evidence, that this would actually happen, but it would stink to be like, look, everyone else is doing everything we're doing and better, so why continue to invest in this? But, you know, we'll see. The product hasn't even gone out for pre-order yet, though they were saying, I believe, later this week.
There are pre-orders out, really? I believe. Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe they're out now. I think earlier this week, like on Monday, they had said later in this week that they were going to be.
On Monday, they said that. Today, they announced everything. There's a few websites where you can get all this.
So I think you've definitely got a decent amount of time on it before anything happens, but we'll see.
Are either of you guys going to pick this up?
Yes.
I'm thinking about it. I want to look at the product at least and see how well it works. I mean, you kind of touched on it before. You know, I can load a payload from my phone, but I'd rather just have a little USB thing I just plug into my Switch and get it. You know, for me, if I'm going to write homebrew on this thing, I'm going to be rebooting this thing constantly, you know, putting new executables on there. So I want to get this thing up and running as quickly as possible. And at the end of the day, if the Executor product gives me that feature, then that's what I'm going to go with, you know, ultimately. Now, you did mention the licensing thing with the software. I wasn't actually aware of that. So that's something that's kind of new to me, at least. And that is interesting. And, you know, it's a little, you know, I don't know how I feel about it, but I also kind of see what they're trying to do as well. You know, they definitely want to monetize the whole thing.
Well, because at this point, I think the most valuable thing they have and they're aware of is their software, their custom firmware. So that's why they're selling that individually. One thing I do kind of have this little conspiracy and thing I want to discuss as well too is, if you all remember when this was initially announced, they said they were going to have a solder and a solderless version.
We mentioned this.
Yes, we mentioned this. So this was obviously the solderless version, which is like, okay, cool. You got something to load the payload. You got the jig, the exact same jig, mind you. But where's the solder version?
Yeah.
I ask you, where's the solder version? Because my prediction was that, like, when all this stuff was announced, my prediction was, okay, they're probably going to make a QSB that you solder into the right Joy-Con, so it keeps those 2 pins shorted, because Team-Xecuter loves their PCBs. That's it, and circuit boards. And as for the Switch itself, I didn't think there'd be anything on there, but I was like, well, maybe they might go out of their way to make a programmable PCB that you solder into the system itself that automatically drops the payload on boot when you have those shorted. Maybe.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, man, I kind of felt like they didn't have anything, and not to be disrespectful, but I don't feel like they had anything at the time when they announced this. So they just covered their bases and said, you know what, we're a player, we're in the game, we're going to come out with something. We don't really know what it is yet. It's going to be one or the other. So just hold on tight, and it's coming. So just, just be ready for it. So I don't think we'll ever see a solder product at all. So.
Or they were going down one path and they were like working on it, and then all this other crap leaked out, and they were like, whoa, what are we even wasting our time on?
And then they saw that the jig was probably better than whatever they had for the solder-based version.
Or who knows? This is all speculation, but it is so peculiar that their solution is so close.
Yeah, no, because like the payload thing, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It's not a phone, it's not it's not going to be a computer, and it looks to be programmable because there's at least a USB pass-through on that. But when I saw the jig, I was like, that is not Team-Xecuter. No.
Yeah. It looks exactly. They didn't even make it. They didn't even make the jig fancy.
It's white.
The jig looks like they literally bought a load from a 3D printed website.
I was gonna say, I think the difference is gonna be it's not going to be 3D printed, and it might have the Team-Xecuter logo on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll pick one up for sure, and see how it goes.
Yep. Yeah, even to just have it as like a collector's item.
That's honestly what I was thinking too. Like, it's going to be one of those things I might, I'm on the fence. I might pick it up just to play around with it and such. But I have no doubt that in the next coming months, of course, we have Fusée Gelée, which this is what's utilizing. We're going to have, Atmosphere custom firmware, which seems to be coming along just fine. That's supposed to come out in June. And then, was it June? I believe it was. It's coming out this summer. And then on top of that as well, now that people have seen this, people are no doubt going to try and emulate that payload method, which is awesome. I think the payload method is great, where, as I said, I don't want to hook up my phone every single time I turn on my Switch, especially since, as I've said in this podcast, I'm a on or off person.
Yeah, and it would be really awesome too. It's real hard to say whether it's like this, because a lot of times, they might. It all depends on the execution of what Team-Xecuter is doing. They have no incentive of like making a separate payload that would easily be swappable. They could code that all into a single binary, the loader and the payload. So we'll see, but it would be really awesome if we could even get like our own payload onto the Team-Xecuter dongle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be able to like flash that or something.
And that dongle, I do not think is proprietary to Xecuter at all.
No, definitely not.
So maybe we'll see our own programmable dongles that come out. That would be cool too.
I mean, they're already out, I'm sure. We just need to, find which ones are available.
Sure.
Sort them out.
So, and like I said, I mean, it could be as simple as just a very basic, like bare bones Linux OS, boots, and auto runs a Python script.
Yeah. I just found it funny that it was very much divided. The reception of this, it wasn't an overall glee. It was two groups of people. It was either, yeah, we're going to pirate all our games, or I am not impressed at all.
Yeah.
The final thing I want to say, at least like my thing with when the Team-Xecuter discussion we were having, Kate Timken and several other people, they definitely painted Xecuter in a bad light in regards to this. And their main thing was saying that this is not just a random Switch exploit. This is a Tegra X1 boot ROM exploit, something pretty serious. And they were saying that and I can agree with them on this. They said, it seems irresponsible that Team-Xecuter had found this same one they were using, because everyone's using the same one, no doubt. They found this same exploit, and they were going to keep it completely hush-hush closed source, and they were going to be monetizing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you do get when there is something that it's this serious, and I mean, we have a lot of products. The Udio was mentioned, other NVIDIA devices,
anything with the Tegra X1,
right? These are all pretty much exploitable, and so it is for the best interest of everyone, including the people who are using these, exploits, to what's the right word? To disclose that to the companies.
Yes.
This could be used for some very malicious things.
Yeah.
In the wrong hands. And if it's not patchable, the responsible thing to do is to disclose this. Nintendo, go patch your S, and we're going to be scot-free. Like, it's kind of one of the better outcomes we could be in. But yeah.
And not only Nintendo, but also NVIDIA.
Yeah.
This is their big problem.
It's really actually their issue.
Yeah.
So, I'm kind of like right there with what MVG was saying. Love them or hate them, they're doing their thing. They're probably not going away too soon.
They've always been there, with every single, well, not every single one of them, but just about every one of them. They've kind of been the villain in so many ways. But they have a place in this, whether you agree with that or not, and they provide that solution just for the average Joe or the average person to get their Switch hacked and for homebrew and piracy and whatever they're trying to come up with here. But their solution, they're good at marketing, and that's what they do well. And I don't see that being any different with this iteration.
Right. I think it's probably a good time to move on to the next topic. But,
yes. So we're done with Switch.
We're real quick. I just want to say, as a person who is just, as I get older, as I have more responsibilities, as I have less time, we've talked about on the show, I have like an insane amount of modding debt. I am thankful that the current solutions for the Switch hacks seem to be pretty dang easy once you have the jig. So that's great. But the Team-Xecuter stuff still does appeal to me. I don't have all that time. Yeah. I like to invest in that stuff when I do have time. I still find it very geeky, very fun to get into the nitty gritty.
But you don't have 8 hours to spend on ARM9 loader hacks. No. Or maybe even 4 hours.
And if I weigh the options, like if it's like a day where I want to get this done and I don't have the time, or like a week or whatever, I can't argue with that kind of packaging.
I had to downgrade and set up and install like custom firmware on, like, without the gateway, but like custom firmware on my DS, I think 3 times before it worked. And that was a big multi-step, all over the place, multi-hour process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I mean,
so, and that's something that people have brought up too. I've seen in comments in regards to this. Like, there's just people that are like, look, I want to play my games for free. I want something that works. This does both of them.
Well, and I mean, we've also heard a lot of disclaimers. I mean, time and time again, these developers did not actually, most of them did not intend on releasing a lot of this stuff right now. When they did, they're all like, hey, look, this is what it is right now. This has not been packaged up completely. This does not have a bow tie. Like, it is what it is.
It can run on an Ouya.
Yeah, but might catch it on fire. So anyways, we may be done with some Nintendo Switch stuff, but we're not done with Nintendo. In fact, the DSi seems like the console that not necessarily won't die, but like that just keeps getting weird discoveries way after, like, it's
this shit was released on the same day that we
was
talked
it really
about. Yes. That's why it was such a big deal.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'll let you take this away.
All right, I don't know, MVG, do you know a lot of details about this one? If not, I can definitely take it.
I mean, you go ahead. I know a little bit, but honestly, this is not really my area of expertise.
Sure. I have never modded a DSi. I did some stuff on the original DS through flashcards, so this isn't my expertise either, but I did look into this a little bit, so I'll kind of give my opinion. It doesn't seem too crazy, but it's basically like our first, they say Bootcode, but I believe it's essentially the boot ROM exploit as well.
Yeah.
The DSi was known for actually having pretty good security, and it was kind of the first thing that had firmware updates and stuff like that. It was a new time for Nintendo.
True.
So yeah, so it looks like we have our first real boot mod or boot ROM exploit. It does require an entry point already. So it's not a primary exploit, but yeah, I'm not sure what we can actually do with this at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's there at the moment. We can't do too much, but it's just like the thing of, God, like everything was releasing that day. And then also out of nowhere, DSi boot ROM.
Yeah. Don't forget about me, guys.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't want to downplay and call it a meme, but it was a meme amongst everything. Because when this came out, people were like, what the fuck is happening today?
Yeah, pretty much. And
that's why I just keep laughing with this.
The sad thing about this too is that even though like the DSi keeps getting weird stuff that pops up, we've talked about a couple exploits that have been found, some like primary entry points that have been found over the last, maybe 6 months or so. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's still like, it keeps popping up every once in a while, but it's not like it's getting a ton of development. So it's awesome to see this stuff documented and found, but I worry that there's not really going to be much done with the boot ROM exploit.
Probably not.
What do you, I mean,
I don't think anything will really be done with it. We might see some stuff because I know like there is custom firmware that's been released for the DSi, and in the last year we've seen some more eyes looking at it, but I don't think anything big is going to come of it. I'd love to be proven wrong, though.
Well, and sadly, like part of it I think is just the hardware limitations, right? What are you going to do on it? Are you really going to spend all the time to write emulators that are going to be probably fairly poor performing? I mean, the PSP had a pretty good life. I don't know exactly how the hardware compares, but it's kind of that or investment versus reward, or you're like almost like your return on investment, even though we're not talking about like monetary gains necessarily.
This is truly one of those things where it was done just to do it, which I don't have an issue with.
No, but especially when you look at that, and then it's like, oh well, look at this shiny new Switch with all this wicked development going on for it. Like, which one are you going to choose?
I mean, it's also one of those things at the same time. I'm the dude who, guys, I replaced my Xbox One with an Xbox One. And I'm talking about, for anyone that doesn't understand, like the Xbox One, the thing that came out in 2013, when I moved, I boxed it up. It's still in the box. In place, I put my original Xbox there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, next to me.
Oh, they're great.
I'm sure a lot of people still love the DSi. If I had one laying around, I might experiment with a little bit, but I'm all for open hardware and breaking these things down. But yeah, I'm worried that we're not going to be able to like utilize this like newfound thing to its fullest extent. That's a little sad.
Yeah. But I'm all for new things coming to older systems. Like I think this is still, I don't know if this has been released yet, but I know like several years ago, DRM was like fully cracked on the Sega Saturn, where the video card that goes into the back of the system, people have thought of like making flash cards and emulation. Well, they've made drive emulators for the Saturn, but they've thought of using the cartridge slot at the top to play ROMs and ISOs and such. But nobody ever really looked at the data port in the back that was designed for the video CD add-on. But there was one guy who looked at it, and he was able to successfully get games running through that extremely well. So I think that's still yet to release. I do want to pick one up whenever it does come out, but it's just you need the proper person to look at it.
Yeah. The reality is the DSi really isn't that old, and one benefit you do get is being able to archive these consoles a little bit better.
True.
Yep.
So having more access to hardware, I think we've been able to back up games on the DSi. I don't even know how many DSi specific games there were, but I think those kind of archives we have, but more is always better in these kind of situations.
True.
Especially considering the DSi is now well end of lifed. It's not really going to be costing Nintendo anything. Really only gains here.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds
of gains.
All right. Well, we still have plenty of stuff to get to, so
I think we're like maybe halfway through.
I don't know if you guys have anything else to say on the DSi.
I'm good. I want to move on to the next stuff.
Yeah, I think you're the rightful person to take this next one.
Am I? I don't know. MVG, what about you?
Oh man, this is all you. You.
I
have my opinion. I want to hear your
y'all putting so much pressure on me. All right.
You like it. Don't lie.
No. It's fine. It's fine. I don't mind. So yeah, no, let me go ahead and share this here. So on the same day, we got the Switch.
No, we didn't.
Yes. We got the Switch stuff. We got the DSi boot ROM. And we got ElDewrito Takedown.
Yeah, no.
So in case anyone did not know,
ElDewrito 3 ain't bad though. Come on, let's be real.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of sad.
Yeah. Anyways, so what ended up happening was, in case you don't know, ElDewrito is a modification for the game Halo Online. Halo Online is a unreleased PC exclusive for that was in the Halo series.
Which I'm not a huge Halo fanatic, but I definitely liked it. It had its place in my heart back in the Halo 2 days mainly. I had not heard of Halo Online.
It was designed exclusively for the Russian market. It was going to be a free-to-play type game. They were going to integrate microtransactions into it, or I believe they had. It was in closed beta for quite some time, and it was essentially Halo 3 on PC.
Yeah,
not exactly that, but it was essentially Halo 3 on PC. So the game,
did they do like any marketing or any beta release for the US, or was it hyper focused on Russia?
It was only Russia.
Wow.
It's similar to other games, like, for example, Call of Duty Online is China exclusive. There's Borderlands Online in some other countries. And it's just one of those titles. So what happened was, it was in beta for a while. People found ways to, get the beta and play in the US and other places. And then ElDewrito, that's initially what it was called. There's two versions, but ElDewrito initially came out, and it essentially,
not like Doritos.
ElDewrito.
Like, ElDewrito for our audio listeners.
This was ElDewrito.
What?
Yeah, so let me explain it. So the build itself, Halo Online, like the EXE is ElDewrito. That's the official one. So then the initial thing was ElDewrito, and this was to crack it and play it offline, and they added some Forge in there too. And it initially got a DMCA because I believe the initial release of this modification had a copyrighted, had the EXE for Halo Online in it. So they removed it. It released only the mod. It was fine. And then eventually ElDewrito became ElDewrito. And we've gotten all these releases. And on 420 Blaze It, they released the 0.6 update, which they did a ton of hype, a ton of marketing for. It got more attention than it ever has, undoubtedly, to the point where big Twitch streamers are playing it and going nuts. Devin has this tear mark going down his face now, but no. So now I'll go ahead and stop sharing this well too, because it's just been, up on this page. But then it was taken down. So we're going to discuss the takedown a little bit. Now, 343 Industries, they ended up explaining how Halo Online came about, why it was, well, they didn't say why it was canceled, but they talked about, the closed beta of it. And they essentially said, look, like, we think this is cool. We think this is awesome, but this doesn't negate the fact that this is a modification for a game that is not abandonware, is not open source. These assets belong to Microsoft. And we think this is cool. But legally, Microsoft has decided to step in, which I'm saying that incorrectly. I need to kind of correct that on there. So it had to get shut down, in short. And they just essentially came in, Microsoft. They said, hey, y'all need to cease development of this. The main issue that Microsoft was having was the mod is fine. So ElDewrito is fine. I can give you ElDewrito, and it's okay. I can give MVG ElDewrito, and that's totally fine. I can post up a download link, and that's fine. The issue comes into play of the build of Halo Online. The build of Halo Online is not to be redistributed. If I give you a build of that, that's when it becomes illegal. For anybody, I think it's appropriate because this came out on 420 initially, but it's kind of like weed and glass, where you can have your glass, you can sell it, you can do what you want to with it, and that's fine. It's legal to smoke weed out of it. It's legal to buy weed. It's legal to sell weed in many different places. In these same places, glass is going to be okay. It's kind of like, think of Halo Online as weed, and ElDewrito is going to be the glass in this situation here. Because the mod is still available. You can download the mod itself. But what they were going after was the mod and game in one packs and any download links to the build itself.
Right. But this isn't something that's like super uncommon. I mean, yes, right. Kind of like almost going back to the, Team-Xecuter example that MVG gave, where it's like, yeah, this is like for the layman, this is great if people just want to boot it up and go. Yeah, like having it all bundled is fine. But I feel like the type of people that are, I mean, I guess not. If we got Twitch streamers, a lot of mainstream people, maybe they wouldn't have gone through the effort of patching something. But like, I feel like a large portion of people getting involved in that would be willing to patch it.
The patch process is very easy, though. You take the build, you drop the patch in, you run the patch.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why they have to keep them separate. But, in short, that ended up happening where 343, they came out and they said, hey, look, we canceled this for reasons. We're not getting into it. Microsoft issued the takedown, but we are aware now, for some reason, they said, now we are aware that you all want Halo on PC again.
Right.
You all want a proper release. Now you are aware. You had to take a game that we canceled years ago and reverse it and make a mod. Yeah. Make a mod for it. And then wait for Microsoft to come in and say, hey, you need to stop development, all this. Oh, now we know that you all want Halo on PC. We didn't know that. We're sorry about that. ElDewrito themselves also had an article about this as well, too. And the one thing I want to say on here is, you know, that they had quoted 343 Industries in this, where they said, while we are humbled and inspired to see the amount of passion poured into this project, the fact remains that it's built upon Microsoft-owned assets that were never lawfully released or authorized for this purpose. As this project reverberate, I can't speak, across the community, our team took a step back to assess the materials and explore possible avenues. While Microsoft, like any company, has a responsibility to protect its IP, code, and trademarks. It's not optional, in other words. Now, they had also mentioned here, they as in ElDewrito team, they had said, by the way, we're not shutting down the mod or going after the ElDewrito crew. We're enacting action to remove the Halo Online code and packages from places it's being hosted. Or I guess they were saying on here, that was quoted from Microsoft. I didn't see that anywhere, but this is from the post. Either way, now, ElDewrito team is saying there was no cease and desist, no DMCA, just a brief conversation about what they suggest we do. And the suggestion was, you need to stop circulating any builds of Halo Online and need to stop development. But the game is still playable. Like, you can get, like, if you get a build of it and you get the patch and you run the patch, you can go online and you can play it. And ElDewrito actually encourages that as well, too. They just said, hey, we can't be a part of the distribution of the Halo Online build itself, and we cannot do any more development.
I'm super glad, because I'm glad they're sticking with this and continuing development for now, you know, foreseeable future.
Oh, no, they're not continuing development.
I thought they were.
No.
Oh, what?
No, they are talking. They have some internal talks. They've said, like, behind the scenes stuff. Like, they're trying to, you know, talk with 343 and with Microsoft to see if anything can be done. But right now, they were like, it's not an order. It's more Microsoft had a conversation with them and said, hey, look, this is the reality of it. We don't want to start legal action, so but you need to stop.
But I thought that was just to distribute the full package.
Distribute the full package, and they just don't want any more development on this right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't clear on that bit.
Mm-hmm.
So Microsoft said you don't have to take down the current state of the patch, but we don't want you developing the patch anymore.
I think it was more of a suggestion, just like, look, it would be a really bad idea to continue developing this. Do you get what we're saying?
Man, well, yeah. So that makes me feel a little less.
Bad idea if you want to stream it or you know, capture gameplay video of it and put on YouTube and places like that too. So
well, I was going to say, even in regards to that, on April 27th on Halo Waypoint, they actually updated that, and they said, following some temporary Twitch and YouTube bans that were issued earlier this week, there's been some questions about whether or not streaming or posting Halo Online ElDewrito content is allowed. Because ElDewrito is built upon Microsoft-owned Halo Online content that was never lawfully released or authorized for this purpose, streaming or building content from the mod could result in action taken against your account. Mm-hmm. While we are working with streaming video platforms and would like to avoid outright bans and negative strikes, you are putting yourself at risk, and we do not recommend creating or distributing content around ElDewrito Halo Online. So there were some Twitch users that got suspensions or some bans or takedowns. There were YouTube users that also got takedowns. That's what MVG was mentioning.
Banned or taken down?
Who?
Did anyone on Mixer get banned or taken down?
Oh, that I don't think anyone had the balls to stream it on
Mixer anymore.
I'm not sure.
I don't know about that. But no, they're just saying here, they're like, look, because it's obvious here, 343. They're saying, they're like, we like this, we think it's cool, but it's just we're sorry, no, but we think it's cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think Microsoft really, you know, they got to come out at E3 and announce something, because I mean, I think if they don't, man, I don't know what's going to happen there. I think they really have to, you know, they've kind of, you know, fuzzily committed to some type of PC version, but they haven't really committed to anything. but they've kind of alluded to the fact that, you know, everyone wants it, so we're looking at it. So, you know, hopefully they come back at E3 or at least later this year and announce something. I think that'd be really cool.
I'm gonna make this very clear. Halo 5 Forge is not a proper release that can take this place.
Right. I agree with that.
Oh man,
no doubt. Well, I hope this means good things in the future, one way or another.
Same.
You know, we've seen this before with other projects. There was a Pokemon game that seemed to kind of get this same kind of attention where it's like, yay, they got a lot of positive press.
Pokemon Uranium, I believe. Yep.
Yay, we got a lot of positive press. Yay, like everyone's loving it. Oh, because of that, it's now got the attention of the company behind the original product.
And C&D. Same with another Metroid 2 remake.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh man.
Metroid, and there was you know, there was a Zelda game that they released, and yeah, it's always the same.
What about that Super Mario 64 multiplayer mod?
Yeah.
Is that the same thing? I think we talked about that.
Yep.
Yeah. Hello, Lily.
Whether they're in like Pokemon Uranium was like a completely new project made with like RPG Maker or something. I can't remember if it was exactly like that, but it was a game development engine. It wasn't a modded or hacked version of Pokemon. So this happens to things built from the ground up and things that are patched. Just
meanwhile, I love how Sega's approach to it is where like they've even kind of the official Sonic the Hedgehog account has kind of been tongue in cheek with that stuff where there's like a Sonic fan thing that comes out and he's just like, oh, we got to take it down. Nah, it's all good. We like what you're doing. Yeah. Or with not Sonic Forces, that one was bad. Sonic
Mania.
Sonic Mania, yeah. The guy who headed that, he was making mods for Sonic games and making ROM hacks. And Sega approached him. They're like, hey, you're doing a really good job with this. Like, if we offered you a job and gave you your own team and gave you full creative freedom and full access to, you know, the Sonic license and such, would you be interested in getting paid to do what you're doing, but officially? And he made the best Sonic game in recent years.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So hopefully good things will come out of this. Maybe ElDewrito people will come out later and be like, surprise,
man,
we're working on the new Halo.
I hope this has a happy ending. I really do, because it's a real touchy situation. I mean, you can kind of understand Microsoft's angle and their kind of viewpoint and their opinions on this. I mean, they want to protect what's theirs, but you can also understand the ElDewrito people as well. So, man, I hope someone wins out of this, or everyone wins out of this versus everyone loses, because that would be really bad.
Well said. I agree.
Yeah, I think it's also a lot of people have also tried to say, they're just like, I want to get both of your guys' opinions on here because I don't think this would work at all. But lots of people are saying, well, why don't you just hire the ElDewrito guys and take the ElDewrito code and put it on top of the Halo Online code and release that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there'd be a lot of red tape in between. I don't think it'd be that simple.
Yeah.
But I do think that the ElDewrito people could bring plenty to the table.
Absolutely.
Being that close to the community, even probably having some kinds of statistics, right? Like, look, this is what works. This is what people want. We've been doing this for years now. On the ground level, not having to worry about any kind of like, when you're in those kind of companies, a lot of times you as like a developer may be like, oh, I don't think this is the best idea. You know what I mean? You're like, no, like overruled, like we need to do this. You know what I mean? And they were on the ground floor. They had like, you know what I mean? They were able to make those decisions without any kind of red tape or intervention.
Yeah.
So hopefully, like, in some way or another, like you said, hopefully we have a happy ending here.
Yeah.
E3. They better announce something at E3.
Yeah.
E3. Yeah. Ooh. Microsoft has no games. So.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably next month's topic, right? So.
Yeah, right. Hopefully.
Microsoft ain't got no games.
So. Maybe we should move on. We still got a number of topics here.
We have two big chunks, which is nice now. But like, we went for like an hour on Switch news alone.
Almost an hour and a half.
No, not an hour and a half. We started at 7. We switched over at like 8:00 something. Okay,
yeah, fair.
Literally switched over, right?
Switched over, and now it's time to switch into this.
Oh, geez. So, moving on, we are going to talk about Nintendo again, just a little bit more, but kind of at a high level. It seems like the FTC has pretty much basically kind of made those little warranty stickers, like, you know, void if you remove the sticker, your warranty void or whatever. Basically made those illegal, essentially saying like you can't tell people they can't just take apart their stuff.
And the thing is, they've been illegal for years, and people have known about that. But the FTC finally issued on April 9th a official complaint against, at least in the gaming industry. I think Asus and a few car industry like companies were there too, but Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, they issued official complaints saying you have 30 days to comply with this before we take any action.
Which is, I'd love. Do you know how long it's actually been illegal?
I believe there was an act like from 1975 or something. It's been decades,
40 years,
so
like that. Yeah.
When I was like 13 years old and I managed to like use tweezers and a little bit of water to remove my sticker on my PSP and put it back after cleaning my screen, because all I wanted to do was clean my screen.
All you want to do is clean.
There was dust.
Yeah.
All right. They did not seal that thing up like super well.
Oh no, but there were two small holes on the front of the screen and dust got inside of them.
So I just wanted to like clean my PSP was hacked by other means. So I mean that's besides the point. But regardless, like I shouldn't.
Your method of breaking it. I put in a game and I pressed the update button, and then 2 minutes later the screen turned black and I don't know what happened.
They didn't question the 13-year-old boy on why his PSP was bricked. So, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted to have that opportunity. That was my ace card. Okay, and I didn't want them to be like, "Oh, sorry, you can't use your warranty because a sticker was damaged." So, you know, it's frustrating. But, you know, my point of the story is I literally just wanted to clean my screen. That should be legal. Like that should not, you should not have consequences for that.
Yeah.
Now, I think if you break something along in the process, that's where things get a little gray, right?
And that's where it's changed now. So Sony and Nintendo have complied with this. We don't know anything about Microsoft. I did check Microsoft's terms of service and it hasn't been updated. So right now, if I opened up my Xbox One, I would still be voiding the warranty on there. However, this is from a GameSpot article, but it's saying the FTC had also particularly pointed out a problematic sticker that acted as a seal against opening the PlayStation 4. Sony has changed the language that previously suggested removing the sticker would void the warranty itself. Like any other change, the warning now says the warranty does not apply to damage caused by opening the products or third-party providers. The FTC also previously warned, well, let's see. No, that was talking about, okay, Asus and HTC, Microsoft, we haven't heard anything back from them. But again, yeah, I know it's saying both companies have issued new warranty guidelines that now say they're only voided by damage caused by third-party products or services, not mere use of them. So if you opened up your system just to clean it, didn't damage anything, put it back together, you're good.
So I'm still confused then if I open my system and I say I broke a clip that was holding down a ribbon cable.
Void.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Like, I mean, you can fix that yourself, I'm sure, and it will be okay. But I was even thinking more, and that's a good point, but like I was thinking more dramatic. Like if I open up my whole system and then I drill a hole in the motherboard somehow accidentally.
Yeah, that is a bit more dramatic.
Yeah, yeah. If I do that, they're going to say, hey, dude, your system, your warranty is void. This thing's fucked.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's interesting. I think that's the better way to approach it. I'm willing to accept that. You know, I shouldn't lose my warranty for cleaning my screen. But if I broke something along the way, if I, you know, I don't know, sometimes those little components are a little tough to unhook or separate. So I don't know, you know, you ended up cracking your motherboard trying to get something off.
So what do you guys think Microsoft hasn't complied yet? Do you think they're just...
I don't know why, but I also want to...
The whole thing, or do you think it's...
well...
They don't want to comply?
Well, I put this down. So like Nick in the chat, he was saying that Microsoft complied. I'm actually going to show you him right now on May 16th of 2018. I'm on the Xbox One warranty page. And right here, number 5C, warranty exclusions, opened, modified, or tampered with, including, for example, any attempts to defeat any Xbox One or accessory, technical limitation, security, or anti-piracy mechanism, etc., or its serial number is altered or removed. So they have not complied, unfortunately. Why? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Do we know when the statement was issued?
April 9th. It's past that date.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is peculiar. I mean, maybe they're working out some logistics. Maybe they're trying to phrase things in a way that still gives them as much of an upper hand. And I mean, Microsoft's big enough. There's a very good possibility that they're like, yeah, we're going to get fined. It's more worth it for us to eat that cost and make sure we have our ducks in our row for our needs. I mean, they're a big company. They can they can take a hit like that. I doubt it's actually
how big of a hit we don't know, but I mean they ate the original Xbox cost. They ate the Xbox 360 warranty costs.
Yeah,
Xbox doesn't make the money,
right? So I think this is overall good, and I guess the one downside is that these companies didn't comply for so long and were able to get away with it. So you know, what actually changes, or what changes down the line, or what we see come out of this in the future, you know, only time will tell. But I hope that Microsoft and pretty much everyone else takes note of Sony and Nintendo jumping on it, and
we'll see,
follow suit.
I mean, they have to at this point, or else they're going to get fined and such. So
smaller companies won't be able to afford that. So
absolutely
gonna have to. Well, should we go on and transition?
Let's switch into
Sony.
This next topic.
Oh, so yeah, Nintendo and Sony were playing nicely with the FTC, but it looks like Sony might be getting in the short end of the stick in terms of exploits and homebrew.
Yes.
So I know at least you are going to be way more knowledgeable on this. I did look into it. I familiarized myself a bit, but one of you guys want to take this one?
Well, for me, I mean, I've only really started taking notice of this probably in the last week or so, when I did hear about a 505 jailbreak and open source kind of dev tools or homebrew dev tools. So, you know, I'm not too familiar with the history of you know, the PS4 as far as the jailbreaks for the previous firmwares, but this to me looks very interesting, and it looks like SpectreDev is, you know, imminently going to announce or release the jailbreak and some dev tools, which is really cool to see, because with the PS4 being such a powerhouse, PS4 Pro at least, you know, it really opens up the door for some amazing, you know, potential there with emulation and homebrew.
Yeah, absolutely. You are right. I do hope the Switch succeeds a lot one day, but I do also like the idea. Like when I set up my Raspberry Pi 3 with RetroPie and all that recently, I was like, you know, this is great, but I do need more power. And it would be awesome to have a console like that set up at home, ready to go. You sit down, you throw your friend a PS4 controller, and you're off to the races. So
yeah, I mean, you know, from an emulation perspective, being Intel based, you know, we're talking the cream of the crop of emulators potentially being developed for the PS4 with dynamic recompilers and all that stuff. So we're talking Killer Instinct on the PS4 as a possibility. You know, we're talking all the good stuff. So, you know, I'm very interested in what comes out for the 505. I think it would be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you make some really good points there. Gosh, this is just all such good stuff happening. I came onto this podcast at the right time.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's really good stuff. So yeah, like you said, it's imminent.
Yep, it's been announced. So about a week ago, they said in the next few weeks, a lot of people. So at first there were rumors, and these rumors were just like a few people putting out dates. There were rumors of May 5th for the 505. Ha ha ha. K exploit. That didn't happen.
I see what they did there.
May 20th has been circulated as a date as well too. There's been nothing really directed towards that. They just said the next few weeks. So it's going to happen this month. If not this month, it's mostly going to happen next month. Just be patient. That's what I'm telling everyone. Just be.
Give them as much time as they need to get this thing releasable and to the public and working the right way. Let them get the dev tools out so people can start deving, you know, on day one. I mean, this again, like the Switch stuff we talked about earlier, this could be huge. This could be a game changer.
Absolutely.
And the cool part is you can still pick up, you know, 4.73 consoles, the God of War consoles, out in the shop. So getting your hands on a 505 firmware is pretty trivial.
Yeah. So In regards to that as well, too, when we were talking about, you know, bigger and better things, I was going to also transition into what we know about the Mira project here. So this is from Open Orbis.
Right, which we had talked about previously.
We talked about before. We were able to break some news on that here before, thankfully, thanks to our anonymous contributor on that. However, the Mira project has been announced, and just reading directly off their GitHub, the Mira project is the result of the hard work from the Open Orbis team. We believe in quality over quantity releases. There are numerous components to the project, and each one will be explained below. Here's the list of components with a description of what they do. So the firmware, previously known as Mira Hin, this has been expanded into a full expansion custom firmware. One thing I do want to put out, though, from what we know, it's not going to be custom firmware like we knew it on the PSP or the PS3. This is going to be a HIN, a homebrew enabler.
Similar to what we've been seeing on the Switch even recently.
Correct. So this is going to be, and that's a perfect way of putting it. So this is going to require a WebKit exploit, a kernel exploit after that, and then you can launch this, and when you reboot your system, Mira HIN is gone. So you have to launch your WebKit and kernel exploit in order to get this every time. There's many tools included in the Mira project, and they're listed out below. So new lib PS4, this is the libc implementation ported for PS4. It's a pain in the ass to compile. Just take the pre-built binaries seriously. id PS4 or LD PS4, this is the linker to be used with the new lib PS4 to create Orbis compatible ELF files. Or you could use Crazy Void's ELF fixup tool. MiraLib, this is the communications library that will be specialized for operation with the Mira firmware. And there's a user's guide that can be found as well, too, if you want to check anything on that. For more layman stuff, there's also a Wolo.net article where he was here talking about, you know, the contributors and the SDK. This is the toolkit. This is the SDK. This is the stuff that people have been waiting for. This is what has been hinted, where all the developers have been saying, we want the framework, we want the tools out, we want everything to come out at once. We want all this stuff here. We want it all available.
Right.
Which is awesome. I'm excited for this. This is going to be the proper way to get something out.
You can't have one or the other. I mean, if you release the jailbreak, like, you know, you're talking about earlier how you're running it on the 3.0, and there's nothing you could do once you kind of got in there. It's like, well, what do I do now? There's like a test app, and that's it. So you really have to have the whole suite ready to go. And I think, you know, they're doing the right thing there.
And there's something to be said with momentum, which I think is kind of something you were alluding to. It's like, even for end users, say you hack your PS4 and there is nothing, maybe you're not that interested in piracy, then it's like, okay, I'm not going to care about this. I'm going to like separate myself for a while.
And I'll be honest, and that's been my thing, because I've done some PS4 tutorials, and it's like, okay, there's really no homebrew here. The mod menus, I think, are cool. But in regards to the games, I purchase all my games, so the piracy doesn't interest me. And the other thing is, with the PS4, they have streamlined the game loading process and such so well, where I don't really mind popping in the disc on that. For something like the Switch, and I'm not making an excuse here, but like the Switch, I would love the game loading feature because I love my physical games. I don't want to, especially something that's portable, I don't want to carry around all my cartridges all the time, which is what I do now.
Yep. No, I mean, I don't know. I think this is all good. I think they're starting this off pretty well. You were kind of brushing over like the different tools that they have, but they have like a standard library, which just facilitates a lot of basic needs for different, different things that you want to actually use to code your software. And then they have like custom firmware specific libraries, specialized to actually leverage the custom firmware features. It seems like they have their bases covered. I'm pretty excited about it.
Me too. I'm very excited about it. If they do it right, and I'm sure they will. Again, this could be a real game changer for the scene.
Yeah, I think the one downside to it, it seems, is I believe QWERTY was saying that right now the 5.05 kernel exploit isn't as stable as the 4.55 one. I think that's been a little bit of a common occurrence too, because I skipped 4.05. I went straight from 1.76 to 4.55. A lot of people were saying, though, that they noticed their 4.55 jailbreak was less stable than 4.05. I'm not too worried about that, though, because I'm sure people are going to be forking payloads and are going to be adding more code, cleaning up some stuff, and are just going to streamline it.
Yeah, no, we've seen that kind of stuff in the past before. Again, this is all open source. This is all good stuff and really promotes continued development on it. So
Absolutely. So yeah, if you all are wanting this, try and hop on a new PS4 right now.
Speaking of PS4.
Speaking of PS4, does someone else want to grab this? It's the last one. Last one.
I don't know. MVG.
Yeah,
did you ever have a thing for Parappa?
Yeah, I actually want to pick up this game because we're talking about how the hackers found the PSP emulator hidden in the Parappa game on the PS4, and I think they were able to get a couple of things to run, like Potapon, Namco Museum, and I think Loco Roco was another one that they got running. So somehow, some way, there's a fully embedded PSP emulator in there, and it's very, very interesting. I definitely want to see where this goes. Hopefully there's some type of injector that gets developed, and I think Dark Element is working on one right now, but I think a PSP injector would be awesome to see where this goes.
Yeah.
So, go on.
Oh, well, I was going to say in regards to the PSPHD emulator, so that's what's known as. So right now, the PS4, it's of course you got the PS4, and then the PS4 has a PlayStation 2 emulator on it called PS2 Emu. Now there is this that's been called PSPHD, and someone dumped the Parappa the Rappa game, and it has a configuration file in there. And it's called PS4 configuration file for PSPHD. And someone has set up all the settings in there, and they have comments showing everything on that. And in short, you take a PSP ISO, you drop it in, you have to put it in I guess you change the formatting on it to a .img, you have to change a few things. And there seems to be a hard cap limit of just under 900 megabytes for the game that you could put in. But in short, it's a PSP game. And then the HD part is because they're able to take external assets and slipstream them into the game. So that's why you're able to play a PSP game in 4K if it's repackaged like this, because it's the game itself, but then it's adjusting for the PS4 and it's streaming all the new, fresh assets.
Interesting. That's really interesting.
It's awesome. The best part is at the very end, there are a few lines and it says, special thanks to... There's a lot of people, Matsura, Rodney, Allen, and all the awesome people at Japan Studio. Also, huge thanks to Ernesto, Adam, Henrik, Taku, several other people whose support made this project of love possible. Parappa forever. If you're reading this message, congratulations, you win. We love you so much. You've made hacking great again. Wow. And that's from the development studio. That was a configuration file lifted straight from the game.
Wow. You're kidding.
I'm not kidding.
This what was that? What was it? Echelon? Was that Team
Echelon? That was the one who they did that for Dreamcast.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. You have to send me a link to that paste bin. I don't know if it was on this article.
It was not. I put it on there and then I took it off. But yeah, no, I'll drop it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I got chills with that. But it was absolutely reminiscent of Echelon.txt.
Yeah.
Which, if anybody doesn't know, for anyone who's ill-informed, near the end of the Dreamcast life cycle, there was a Sega Classics game that released that was a few Genesis games, and it was a fully fledged Genesis emulator for the Dreamcast that was officially coded. And Echelon was a release group who cracked pirated games, released them, all that stuff. But there was a text file in there called Echelon.txt, and it was directly to that group. And it was instructions on how to use the emulator, how to load games, how to do whatever you wanted to on there.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how they got that past all those code reviews. And
that's what I'm wondering.
I mean, they had to have some pretty cool managers. I mean,
I think so. I don't know about this one. This is spooky and cool at the same time. But the Dreamcast one, I'd made a video about it, and I theorized, I'm like, because it came out near the end of the Dreamcast life cycle. It was a Volume 1 game pack. I was like, they knew Sega was going under. At that point, they didn't give a fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
No doubt. So I think it's really cool. We had talked about Virtual Console stuff just a little bit ago on the show. This appears to just be an emulator wrapper. So Parappa the Rapper. Hilarious. But hopefully we can see other games get packaged in. I mean, shoot, even if we can hot swap assets, it'd be pretty sweet to get some HD remakes of some of those PSP games.
Oh, absolutely. We've seen several officially come out.
Okay.
And let me see. So even in the Ars Technica article, let's see, they did talk about a few here, which, let's see, other hackers have shown Patapon, Namco Museum, and a PSP dev kit test app supposedly running on the PS4. However, last I checked with Patapon, you can't get past the start screen on there. But there are several of these games, like Loco Roco has officially been re-released on PS4. Patapon, I'm pretty sure it has, because I remember seeing it on PlayAsia.
Yeah,
both great games.
Okay. So right now, the games that work for sure are the ones that have officially been released.
Yeah, well, ironically enough, yeah.
Yeah.
Get Liberty City stories going on there and see how that goes. That'd be
Yo, that would be cool.
cool.
I'm finishing up Vice City Stories right now. I'm playing it on the PS2.
Yeah.
Nice.
You've been going through a little bit of a kick.
Not as much recently.
I was about to say it's got to be ending soon.
Yeah.
I know I've like learned your like kick phases.
I know, right?
Like there was Silent Hill for a while. That was a good one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was spooky.
Yeah. That's the point.
Yeah. By spooky, I mean like in my previous apartment. So I was playing this game on surround sound with the lights off, and with the way one of my speakers was, when I was walking around Silent Hill, and there was a it was in the apartment buildings, which made it even spookier. When there was monsters and you could hear them, it sounded like there were monsters creeping down my hallway.
Right. When living in an apartment, it's like you never know when it's actually someone really like who is that? Someone else in the complex? Is that just me? When you're in a place that you're not just like butted up against a dozen other people, it's pretty easy to separate
exactly
what's in the house and what's not.
Yeah, my favorite thing is now whenever like I'm watching something, there's like a bird off in the distance. Like if it's a game or a TV show, Lily just like whips around and she's looking at the speaker, and I'm like, man, this sound design on here is popping.
Right. It's quality. Well, so yeah, hopefully we can see some good things come out of this PS4 emulator
for sure.
Circle back.
PSP,
or yeah, PSP emulator on the PS4.
Mm-hmm. I'm hoping so as well.
Surely
yeah,
something.
I think there's definitely more to come there, and pick up that game because
I have it. Yeah. I have it.
I actually need to pick it up. I'll have to grab a copy of it.
It's unless prices gone up, it's not bad either. I picked it up brand new, imported for like $25 or $30.
I think that's the point. You should, if you are interested in trying it out, get a copy now, because it's going to be one of those things where the resellers are going to get a hold of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's how it always happens.
I didn't want to resell it. I got it because it was Parappa.
Yeah, right. Oh, I love it when Parappa Rapper came out
like over a year ago.
Nice.
Yeah. So
when Parappa the Rapper came out on the PSP, I was pretty stoked.
Mm-hmm.
I was so happy to relive that whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I think the only time I had played it before was actually on a demo disc.
I had that demo disc. I know what you're talking about.
I don't remember what else was on it, but Parappa was definitely the highlight. So yeah. It's good stuff.
Good stuff indeed. Guys, we're done with topics.
Yeah. That was... It actually accelerated faster than I thought near the end.
And that's what I thought. That's why when I looked at it, it was kind of like the dog who is around the fire, and I'm just like, I'm there, I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is fine.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This is fine. Yeah, no, it sounded like you trimmed the fat a decent bit, and I noticed you did.
Then I added it back.
Yeah. It's okay. It all works out.
It does. Yeah.
So now that we're done with topics, this is kind of the portion of the show that we do every episode, and that's really question and answer from the audience. So if anybody's got some stuff lined up, some questions, definitely start dropping them in, and we'll start hammering away.
Absolutely. So I'd say we'd be good for about 20, 30 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
All right. So if you got any questions for myself, Devin, MVG, all three of us, just let us know. And yeah, we'll be good.
So we've got one right here. Jacob Waggers. I'm hoping I'm not butchering your name too much there.
We might be butchering it.
Should I wait for a jailbreak on my PS4? It's on the newest firmware now, but I don't know if I should wait for a new jailbreak.
We get another PS4 if you don't want to be patient.
Yeah, it's kind of what we talked about. And not everyone has the means to have another console. I get that. So, if modding is something that's important to you in any shape or form, don't update it. If you can only afford one console, that's just the reality of everything. If not, then you take the risk of updating it, and maybe something will come out. Maybe you'll get lucky. It's happened to me a number of times before, but that's just reality.
Mm-hmm. Net neutrality passed the Senate, by the way. Thank you, James, for updating on that. Net neutrality is here to stay.
You hadn't heard that?
No, I did hear it, but we didn't mention it all on this podcast. I was excited.
Which is
now,
like, I've learned like the deep, dark parts of net neutrality, and like it's very, very twisted.
It is,
because like we went from like having no governance of the internet, and there was governance, and then they tried to make the governance more, and they were like, no, damn it, we want governance, but just different governance, and it's like, oh. It's not.
We want the governance to not have. We want the governance of no discrimination against websites.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. A lot of people would argue that like net neutrality is still not really a win because it's not an open internet anymore.
Well, Epic Martin's right. He's saying it still needs to go through the House, and
that's true.
And I think that's kind of later this year. I think it's in November. So you know, it's a victory today, but there's still kind of more work to be done.
That being said, I personally think that, you know, if it was one or the other, you know, keeping the current net neutrality rules versus the alternatives that were proposed, I would rather have what we have now.
Absolutely.
But yeah, just keep in mind that it doesn't like
Pie's outdated meme video is not going to convince me otherwise.
Yeah, I didn't give him the satisfaction of watching it.
Good.
I tried to erase the video out of my mind, but you just kind of reminded me of it again. So.
I'm sorry.
I'm so glad that I'm like in the clear here. I'm like just clean, pure.
Yeah.
Never seen it. Seen the pictures, and that was more. I thought it was fake.
No.
And then as people,
that's the weird part. I mean,
people kept posting it, and I was like, just flabbergasted.
It's like Tub Girl. You don't want to see it.
Oh God. Let's think about it.
Devin's dealt with me so much.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
and like dealt with you around coworkers and friends and stuff like that. It's just like, oh my gosh.
I think my favorite has been when you have complained to me because it's like I would send like nasty messages, not like nasty pictures and stuff, not to you, but like I'd send them through Twitter, and you would just see them either scrolling down or they would pop up on your watch.
No, yeah, there was that one that you sent me like a Stomedy picture through SMS, and then like I looked down on my smartwatch, and it was full screen, just Stomedy's like face in the full watch.
Well, for a while, I also had close zoom ups of Joey's World Tour eating a sandwich.
Yeah, that guy, man.
Yeah. Oh, MVG, you knew of me after I used to shitpost a lot more, so. I need to get back on that.
Nice. Epic Martin asks, which system had better homebrew, PSP or Xbox? Come on. I mean, you're talking to me here. You know, Xbox.
That's why I saw that. I was kind of laughing because I was like, this is a between you two. This is going to be kind of a war zone.
No, I mean,
I will say the PSP had a really, really solid homebrew scene, and you know, it for the system itself and the power that it had some amazing stuff come out for it. So better give credit there.
I'll definitely give this one to the Xbox. My nostalgia wants to argue more, but I mean, you just look at raw power, and even the Xbox had a couple of years of a jump start on that whole thing. So
absolutely,
maybe even like 3 or 4. Jeez, that's like 3.
Well, it came out in 2001. PSP came out in late 2004.
Yeah,
in Japan. So,
but
it got 3 years.
So yeah, I'll definitely give it to the Xbox, but the PSP was no slouch.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
I'm going to say, you know what? I was going to say PSP, but I want to say Xbox just because of the fact that you were able to take this basic game system that had online capabilities and, you know, saves built in and a DVD player that you had to unlock, and you could turn it into a fully fledged kick-ass multimedia system.
Yeah, I was going to actually mention that too.
Yeah, shout out Team-Xecuter for what they did in the Xbox back in the day, how they were able to just like completely transform and rebuild the system with their case mods and such. The PSP, the thing that always disappointed me with it is now, 2018, it doesn't matter. But back in the day, there was never, I wanted it to be more of an overall media player. Like, I mean, you did have that, like, it could play movies, it could play music and such. And now there's much better converters. But like, I remember I always had to convert to like weird formats, or then it handled MP4, but some of them it didn't handle properly.
Yeah. I mean,
it's no XBMC.
We had like, you know, I think IRShell handled MP3s, but it was very janky.
But the default music player handled MP3s.
Yeah, I know. But like, and I was going to say, and that was just, it was not, the focus was not on a media perspective. I used the PSP as a music player, as my primary music player for like a couple of years, if not like 3 when I was in junior high. And so I was using it a lot, running around, even like skateboarding with that thing in my pocket, which is probably like just a disaster waiting to happen. But it really was a pain in the butt. Just it was not meant for navigating and listening to music.
Yeah, fantastic system though. So
yeah, definitely a good question. I mean, it's not as cut and dry as you think. I mean, it's definitely, both systems really have their strengths there. So,
and it depends on like really how you want to use your device, because if portability like means anything to you, then the PSP has, you know, plenty of support to justify that. You
Absolutely.
know what I mean? And if media is of any concern to you, like, well, I want to be able to just swap over. It'd be nice if I could have like one console with some retro games and be able to play some DVDs and stuff too. That's obviously you're going to be your go-to. Or if you just want to play on the TV, period, because I'm sure there's some hookups for PSP on the TV, but it's probably not pretty.
Isn't the PSP Go has the dock where you can have component cables into your TV? I saw that recently.
The 2000 and 3000, yeah. I know what video you're referencing as well. The 2000 and 3000 have that as well. The problem is it just takes it and displays it on your TV. So you have to either have a upscaler to zoom in, or you need to zoom in with your TV to actually, you know, have it stretch. Man. Yeah. So you could have like a TV this big and the PSP is going to take up about that much space.
Lovely.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's your 4K now, huh?
Where's your 4K now? That's what. So that's a slight pet peeve I have. I just want to be honest. When there's people who they take these old systems, like let's say, that don't upscale, mind you. Like they take the original Xbox and they take the or they take like the GameCube. There's like, yeah, this looks great on my 4K TV, or it looks great on a 4K TV of some kind. I'm like, that the 4K you're not upscaling it to 4K. It's look at it, the info screen. It's gonna say 480p or 720p or 1080i.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would like to see a side-by-side. Maybe there's like a little bit of something to it, but shouldn't be that.
It depends on the processors and such as well, too, on the TV.
Yeah.
But like, for example, it's possible to get a banging 1080p TV and have your 480p content look better on there than a shitty 4K TV.
That's absolutely true. We're talking about contrast, dynamic range, all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of other factors other than just pixels.
Exactly. So yeah, no, that's why when people are just like, yeah, it looks great on my 4K TV, I'm like, yeah, this will also look great on a 720p TV, because if it's a good TV, because the signal you're putting in is 480p. Yeah. There was one I wanted to grab up here, which was question: do you think if PS1 emulation and enhanced resolution becomes a thing on custom firmware, Sony might see that as demand for PS1 backwards compatibility on PS4 officially? I'm actually going to say no to that, mainly for the technical aspect, because backwards compatibility in the technical sense is not there on the PS4. And even so, they haven't supported at all. Where we've seen the PS2 emulator, the PSP emulator, of course, PSP discs you can't put in, but you can't download a PSP game from the PSN store and play it. The PS2 games you have to repurchase as PS2 classics. They might do PS1 classics, but I don't think it's going to prompt them any further to do that. So inevitably, RetroArch will be ported over to the PS4 as a piece of homebrew. People will play their PS1 games there and they'll have fun with it. I would love to see PS1 classics in the future, but I don't think the homebrew scene is going to push that any further.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, and this is just my perception, but I think this generation, Sony seems less interested in kind of going back. I mean, I know we have some of the PS2 stuff on the PS4 running, but it's hard for me to kind of see them doing that. I think their focus right now is just, you know, releasing more games and really just pulling ahead of Microsoft. And I think that's going to continue this year, honestly.
Which they've done a great job of so far. Like they're definitely in the lead for that. And in terms of sales, profitability, games, all that stuff.
Well, and just no matter what, these things take up resources. Mm-hmm. These don't just come for free. And there's a chance, not always, it's not a guarantee, but there's some like architectural compromises that you could be forced to make to support PS1 or whatever. It's like, okay, do you want to emulate this? What costs come with that? How can we make that performant? We got to, you know, these things just don't come for free.
Yeah. And And some people might say, oh, well, the Xbox One does 360 and original Xbox games for free, and they're doing backwards compatibility and all this stuff. I acknowledge that, but Xbox is also in second place, and they are trying to win over people. Yeah. Last generation, when the PS3 was lagging behind hard, Microsoft was very comfortable with where they were at, and they didn't want to give us anything, while Sony was doing PlayStation Plus. They're giving us all these free games. They're doing all this other stuff. They're trying to win over the consumer. This time the tables have flipped. Sony's doing a good job, but they're comfortable. There's no need for them to give you free backwards compatibility, especially when they've shown that they can put out PS2 classic games and people will buy them.
Exactly.
If they know that you're going to buy them, why would they give that to you for free?
Right. You're right about the 360. I mean, Microsoft was, kicking ass back then, and they stopped the backward compatibility program in 2007. I mean, they just kind of killed it, and no one really cared that much. I mean, people were unhappy about it, but everyone was like, well, we've still got Gears of War, and we've still got Halo, and we've still got Fable, we've got Forza, so we're good. We don't really care that much. And now they've invested all that money back into that program, and I can see it grow even further, which is great. I mean, I love the backward compatibility stuff, but I do think that Sony, now that they've got such a lead in this generation, is not really going to invest that much time and money into going back into the PS1 stuff.
Yep, I can agree with that.
Yeah,
pretty much entirely.
Yep. Unless they do a PS1 classic of some kind. That I was going
to say that, because
I would want that. I made a video about that, but I would want that.
Yeah, because then they can make even more cash.
Exactly. I mean? Yeah. I'm a consumer whore. And how?
All right, I'm going to pick up the next question here.
Go ahead.
Valtis. I'm always terrible with these names. Do you think security on devices is getting better or not in the wake of pin shorting and payload loading? I always thought that hacking the PSP with a battery was a funny trick. I just expect next-gen systems to be hacked with a rubber band or something. So, yes, some of this stuff is a little ridiculous. Nintendo has been under a bit of scrutiny, I would say, especially, I guess through like the last few systems, but especially like the 3DS with so many WebKit exploits.
A lot.
Yeah, security is going to always be a bit of an arbitrary thing. Nothing will ever be unhackable, and something's only as secure as as the people who are banging on it. If you got smart people that really want to get into it, then something's going to happen. However, the people behind the Switch have specifically said, like, when a lot of the reswitch stuff really first started breaking out, we really got a lot of real hardcore information about how deep their stuff went. The teams were like, look, well done, Nintendo. You did a bang up job this time. However,
because that was with the OS itself, Horizon OS.
Yes, which is codenamed Horizon OS, which is the evolution of the 3DS OS. It's kind of like that is at its roots. I don't know if it was exactly forked from it or if they kept some kind of kernel components or how deep that goes, but it is.
Because the person we're a fan of, Cyrus M, that gentleman, beautiful gentleman. We've never spoken
with him, or friend of the show.
Yes, friend of the show, even though he doesn't know us and we don't know him. But no, he had said the Switch hardware-wise is completely compromised and all that. But yeah, Horizon OS, good job. We haven't found a damn thing in this.
Yeah, because right now, I mean, we do have a WebKit exploit, another WebKit exploit with Pick a Switch that's been patched since. But yeah, a lot of the lower level, I don't know if we don't have any kernel exploits that we know of or anything like that, just some userland stuff.
Yeah, we got boot ROM, so that's
what I'm saying, and that was all because of NVIDIA's issues, right? And so it's wow, Nintendo, you did a great job. You really did your due diligence on that one. You probably learned so much from the 3DS and the Wii U, but now you get the short end of the stick because of NVIDIA and their mistakes.
Yep. Team Green, baby. Team Green right here.
Yeah. Hey. I noticed that earlier. It's a pretty sweet shirt.
No, I mean, I think to answer, I think my kind of answer to that is every generation of system is going to get hacked in one way or the other. Whether things have improved over the years, I mean, I guess they have, but there's always going to be a way into these systems. And whether it's something that's easily achievable via by the public, as we kind of alluded to before, or if it requires 30 wires on a motherboard and a JTAG type device or something like that, it either way, there's always going to be a way to get into these things. And it's just, I don't know if things are really have improved over the years. I mean, I think every system that gets released, there's always some type of exploit that gets found. And, you know, for so many years, we thought the 360 was kind of unbeatable. And then all of a sudden, you know, the JTAG comes out and everyone's like, oh shit, you know, now I gotta solder 2 resistors on my motherboard and I'm good to go. So, I mean, it's only a matter of time, I think, before every iteration of a console gets kind of busted open.
And kind of similar on that note, like every generation of consoles is going to have like some kind of manufacturer like service mode or some kind of recovery mode of some kind, like that's necessary. Like for the PSP, you know, the battery trick, that was like a like recovery service mode the PSP would go into so they could like unbrick PSPs. You know, if it was just as easy as plugging it into USB and running some software, it'd be a lot easier to find, a lot easier to exploit. But it's necessary for almost every console, if not every single one of them in some shape or form.
Because you got to get them back to the factory and reflash them, fix them, see what the hell's going on.
Right. Refurbishing, debugging, all kinds of stuff.
The people who are going to fix these need a way to get in there.
Yep. So, you know, it's kind of like, we've seen recent like debates, especially with like the Senate and stuff like that here in the US about like encryption, you know, like it's like, oh, we need a backdoor into your encryption. It's like, well, that's not really encryption anymore. It's like, it's not, you can't have a backdoor. And it's like, well, just make it secure. It's like, it just doesn't.
I feel like that's like having.
If you have a backdoor, it's going to be a door. It will be accessible in some way.
I almost feel like in some way that's like putting the most powerful lock on your door possible that money could buy and then just hide the key under the mat.
Right.
Somewhat, yeah. I mean,
yeah. And it's like, yeah, this thing is impenetrable, but you put the key under the mat all the time. And you tell everyone that walks by that you put the key under the mat. So.
Or that there's a key somewhere, right?
Yeah.
There's a key somewhere. I bet you could never find it. Right. But yeah. So nothing is going to be impenetrable. If it can execute code, it can be exploited.
Yeah. I mean, history's shown us that every system that's been released has been exploited in some way. You know, there hasn't been a console, although the Sega Saturn we were talking about before, you know, came pretty close, right, for so many years. People have now found a way to get into that as well. So, I mean, it's only a matter of time, you know.
Yep.
We shall see.
Anybody have another question they wanted to pick up?
MVG, you want to lift one?
Let's see here. What do we got?
I got a question. Devin got a question. Let's throw around the questions.
Why don't hardware mod systems like Xbox One? What happened to hardware mods? I mean, I think normal human to answer that. There's no current mod for the Xbox One, and I'm not really up on what's been going on there. But
why would you do that?
You know, I think there's definitely work being done to try to mod the Xbox One, but as it stands of right now, the security around that thing is pretty hard to beat. So you know,
and Microsoft knows that, and they designed the Xbox One with that in mind as well too.
Yeah, I mean, this is their kind of third attempt at this, right? And you know, the first attempt was an absolute joke. The second attempt was pretty okay. This one is pretty secure. So, will we see a mod for the Xbox One? We probably will at some point, but you know, it may be a couple of years away at least. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, let's not forget that, like, yes, it's, you know, the first couple of iterations, they started out pretty poor on security, probably just because they didn't really know what they were getting into. But Microsoft does build the most widely used by a big margin operating system out there. You know, they are no slouch to security. They are the biggest target in the world for software stuff.
Yeah.
We're not talking about like Mac OS or Apple doing gaming where they own like, you know, just a few % market share or whatever. Like this, they get banged on constantly all the time.
Yeah.
So with the original Xbox, they probably just weren't expecting that kind of response or acts. But, you know, I'm not surprised at this point that their console's been as impenetrable as it is.
Yeah.
My smart ass response to that is you can mod the Xbox One, get a PC, install Windows 10, and mod up your games.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that they did was they gave you the kind of the developer tools, so you can write, I'll say homebrew, with my little quotation marks, you get like a quarter of the processing power and all that stuff. But you can, they do give you a sandbox where you can write your own.
You're talking about dev mode, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of that mitigates a lot of the modding, that people are trying to get done, because there are ways to run your own code on an Xbox One. But having said that, I mean, there's still teams out there that are looking at trying to defeat the security of that thing for sure.
Absolutely. We don't know the teams. We don't know who's like running them. We don't know what the status is, but no doubt it's trying to get worked on.
And for all we know, I mean, if those teams would keep up the trends of new Sony teams as well as Nintendo, maybe there's someone's waiting for a polished release. Maybe one day it'll just be like, hey, we kept this under wraps. It's anyone's speculation right now.
Could be,
but I think there is something to also like what you were getting at, where it was just like, if you already have some of this, it's like some people just do this out for pure fun, right? And if we have other options, we have ways of getting around this already. There's not that much to entice you. We can do what we want. And then if the other scenes are popping off as well, it's like, well, But at same token, there's still going to be someone who always wants to just exploit it just for the sake of doing it. So
yeah. I mean, that's like all the stuff that we talked about with the Switch. Yeah, those are teams just having fun with it.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
I do that as well too. I'm guilty of getting things just to mod them up and have fun with them. So.
Yep. Let's see. Trying to see. I thought there was one more that I wanted to see, but
sure, I'd be down for like one more question on here. Sorry for cutting it a little bit early.
I think we might have actually. That was one of the ones that were answered. So.
Yeah.
What does your dog think about backward compatibility?
My dog doesn't know what backwards compatibility is. I mean, she knows about dog food. If that was like a branded dog food, I'm sure she'd nap that all up.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a branded dog food called backward compatibility, you'd be buying that in the,
Oh, for sure. I'd be like, yeah, I feed my dog backwards compatibility. What do you know about that? I was actually going to say, kind of as a comment on backwards compatibility, which I always forget about this, but the PS2 really introduced it pretty well. And I know even Sega did it with, their power-based converter. But for the longest time, backwards compatibility was not a thing. It was just, hey, you got the new system, you can't use the old system's hardware on it.
Yeah.
And then, with the Game Boy Color with Game Boy, and then like Game Boy Advance with Game Boy Color and Game Boy, and, the PS2 with the original PlayStation, like for several years, and it's not bad, but for several years it became standard. So then it got really weird to go backwards from that. Because it's one of those things, I think if systems never had backwards compatibility, there wouldn't be much of a demand. But because it was given to us and now it's been taken, we're like, no, we liked that. Because it's not even the fact that people use it. It's the idea that in 5 years, if I feel like playing Lair on my PS4, I can take the disc off my shelf, pop it in, play it for 10 minutes and take it out. And I can do that whenever I want to.
Yeah, it's when you take something away from from a consumer, that's when they get they're like, well, why are you taking away my backward compatibility for? I like that in the previous revision. So you're right, it's just an extra feature that that you have. Will will the average person use it? Probably not. They'll probably use it 0.5% of the duration of the console that they have, but it's just another feature that is available to them. So
yeah. And I mean, I can vouch just from the companies that I've been at doing software development. A lot of those times, those are not easy decisions to make. Like at all the companies I worked at with software development, taking away a feature, like it has to be like literally usage is just like below a 1%. Like no one really, I mean, even if it's just a small portion, it's like, we cannot take this away from these people. So these usually are not light decisions. There's a lot of thought around them.
I know exactly what you mean. Coming from a development background, you take something away from someone, they start to get a little nervous about it. So you better have a good reason for it. So
nobody likes change. I'm thinking of it more in the fat kid sense in ice cream. It's like you can't give someone a scoop of ice cream, then a few days later you up them to 2 scoops and you up them to 3 scoops, and all of a sudden you downgrade them back to 1 scoop.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what the hell? Like you kept giving me scoops. No, like the fourth time I come around, I expect an extra scoop because I want this fourth one and I want the other three that I'm used to eating.
Scarus is asking
for all the consoles. Then
Scarus is asking PS5 2019, yes or no? I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say no. Hell no to that.
2020.
So, maybe you think 2020 because late 2020 that'd be, and shit, that's 7 years into the PS4 life cycle. So
oh man,
yeah, the Xbox One, I think I'm interested to see what would happen with that, because it's almost like they would just, I feel like these consoles are even kind of getting to a point where they'll keep the same family and just release higher spec models of them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Especially with the and that's why I mentioned the Xbox One, especially with that, I can foresee.
Yeah, especially if it's like running some like base version of Windows 10, because Windows 10 was all about like, this is going to be, you know, who knows how long, if it really pans out over the next decade or two, but this is the last version of Windows. It's going to be like continuous updates from here. We're not having they basically said there will be no Windows 11. This is the last Windows.
I really think E3 for Microsoft this year is make or break. I don't mean break as in they're going to just stop making Xboxes or get out of the hardware console market, but they have to pull some magic out this E3 for people to really take notice.
Right now it's kind of sad too. Like I've told people, so my reasons for getting an Xbox One X are not even for Xbox One games. I would get an Xbox One X for the two things that are enticing me are for the upcoming MCC patch, if it drops and everything is like perfect with it, like 4K, 60 frames, solid, all that stuff, I'll get an Xbox One X. And then when I'm done playing through the Halo games, I want to play my original Xbox games on there as well too. So my excuses for dropping $500 on this new system are not even for new crazy awesome Xbox One titles, because even the Halo stuff, that'd be the newest stuff, and it's like, well, technically those are all games that I could play on the 360 and some of them on the original Xbox.
Yeah
that's the same reason as me. I mean, that's the same, you know, I'm in the same boat as you, and I think many other people are as well, and that's kind of the sad part about it. But you know, hopefully they'll wow us at E3 and announce some you know, some good reveals, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yep. Well said. I hate to see any competition die off, you know, and I don't think Microsoft's going to be out of the game anytime soon. I don't think they could really weigh that hard. They could, like we said, they're a huge company. They could take losses for a while.
Yeah.
But
Xbox historically does not make the money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think this is the last question I want to grab on here, but I think it's a good one. So Valtis says, this may be a controversial question, but what do you think about the constant "I got private hacks" attention grabbing on Twitter as a whole? Do you think hackers should stay silent till dump?
I don't really care. Like,
I don't have much of an opinion on that.
Like, hackers don't owe me anything. Honestly, it pisses me off more when I see people with like an entitlement, like counteracting.
Constant JB win.
Yeah, or
5.53 win.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, it's like, hey, you shouldn't have said that. It's like, why not? They can say whatever they want. They developed it. They put in the effort. They're not stealing anyone's code. If someone was like, hey, don't leak my code, don't show off my code, this is a test build, and they were like, look what I got, someone gave this to me. Yeah, you know, that's kind of...
So you're against stealing code.
Or like, just, you know, follow like people's wishes. If I'm like, hey, beta test this, but don't show it off, and you show it off, it's not stealing code. It's just like, dude, just...
Yeah.
That's like the only time that I would think it's bad. But like, these are people putting in their own work. They're probably really proud of it. And so then to get like shit on because you're not releasing it right away is like, that can be much more harmful than it can be beneficial.
True.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. But, you know, for me, kind of shit talking on Twitter or whatever it is, it's Twitter, man. You know, that's what it's used for. So whether it's controversial or they're just trying to get some attention or a bit of both, I don't know. But, you know, you got to take the medium or the social media of Twitter as, you know, you got to take that into consideration when you talk about these things. So
that's true. It is a sad reality. And I think there is a difference too. I should like clarify, because I think his question was, or their question was a little bit vague, but, you know, like
they don't
someone being a dick online, like,
and just like teasing, yo, I got this hack, I got this hack, I got this hack, I got this hack, or should they just not say anything until they dump it?
No, I mean, like, if you're being a dick about it, it's fine. If you're like, hey man, I'm working on this cool thing, like, don't ask for an ETA. I don't know when it's going to come out. I'm working on it. You know what I mean? It's all about your execution. So yeah, if you're being a dick, if you know what I mean, if you're not being respectful, if you're, especially like if you're shitting on someone else, you know what I mean? Like, oh, hey, like, I saw some of the stuff with the Switch stuff, which kind of made me like, oh, a little bit weary, because they were like,
Switch was getting toxic for a little bit.
Yeah, because they were just like, oh,
I think it's dying off now, but it was
now that everything's come out. But yeah, it was like, you haven't implemented this yet. You haven't gotten there yet.
I think there's a phase 2 coming, and it's going to be huge. So, you know, once TX gets their thing out, the floodgates are going to open up, I think. So,
well, I'm hoping that everyone can just like direct all their hate towards them, because they're well prepared to take it. They're used to that.
That's a good point. They've like I said, they've been in the game for such a long time. That's where they kind of thrive on, you know, getting all the hate thrown at them.
It's promotion.
Yep.
Hey,
so good press, or any press is good press, whatever they say.
Exactly. Hey man.
Wow. Well,
I got to pee and I'm tired, so
it's not helping that it started raining.
Yeah, rain all over.
Nice little background trickle.
Exactly, trickle, trickle. Lily's even just chilling. I got to take her outside in the rain and everything too.
Oh man,
she's been good though. She's been good, dog.
Been chill.
Yeah,
a little click clack. She tap danced for a minute, but
exactly. Yeah. Anyways, thank you everyone for coming out, participating, chatting with us, all that fun stuff. It has been fantastic. MVG. Thank you so much for coming on to this show. It's much appreciated. And I know you've entertained the idea of coming back on already, right? Before we even started here.
Yeah, I said we'll come back and we'll all wear the hats next time. So
yes, I'd be down for that.
But yeah, man, the question is, I'd love to come back over the summer or at some point. So it's been awesome being on the show, and yeah, it was. Thank you so much for asking me to come on, and it was a good conversation.
Yeah, no, it was super awesome to have you on here. It was good to meet you. And I think you brought like a ton to the table. I think this was one of my favorite episodes since I've been a co-host on here. So
for sure.
So I think we'd both love to have you back. But the one thing we'll need to figure out is, are we all wearing the same kind of hats you are? Or
we'll have to mix it up a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. Get like a fedora in there, a beret.
Oh, that'd be cool. I'm gonna try and be Notch.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. All of my responses will be, I developed Minecraft.
Yeah. Milady.
I could wear this Nvidia shirt and an AMD hat or something just to really confuse people. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Just mix it up a little bit, you know.
Just get people
team
mad.
Green, team red, you know.
Exactly.
Hey, it's okay. No matter what happens, we've got some killer moderators in the chat to keep it keep it held down. So.
Yeah, no, the moderators have been great. So thank you all. Like, the moderators always hold down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I really
definitely
appreciate them.
Got to give them a shout out. They put in the work.
For sure. Anyways, I'm about to tap out here pretty soon. So, you know, if anybody is watching this, or if you're listening, this is going to be available on YouTube on my channel, Mr. Mario 2011. We look forward to seeing any of your comments, constructive criticism, any of that fun stuff. To the chat, thank you so much for coming out. As always, we do these live shows, you know, once a month or so. So if you can come out, fantastic. If not, we look forward to you another time. Now, MVG, where can people find you on the internet?
On YouTube at ModernVintageGamer, Twitter at ModernVintageG, and Facebook ModernVintageGamer. Just Google me, you'll find me.
And I'll have your links down below in the description on YouTube as well. So I was actually going to ask, what's up with the ModernVintageG on Twitter? And thank you for the $2, ModChat.
I don't know if it's changed, but when I tried to create the username ModernVintageGamer, it wouldn't let me type that many characters in, so I just kind of cut it off at the G. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna leave it at that. So
okay,
maybe it's changed now, because I know Twitter's in a rapid rate of change. Almost every day they're pushing out new things for it. But when I set it all up, it's like it doesn't let me finish the characters. So I just
we got 280 characters per tweet now.
Those 280 characters in a
username. Can you not change your username?
No, actually, I have in the past.
Yeah, I was about to say, you could change your @
Yep, I have.
It's not like this is PlayStation Network. What are we talking about?
I don't know how long though. I haven't pushed that. So.
But yeah, I'll try again, see if I can change it. But I've had it for such a long time now. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. So
I gotcha.
It confuses people when you change your ad. So
yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah, I see that. Like, I follow someone on Twitter, Instagram. They're completely different. I'm like, I don't know who you are. I'm unfollowing.
Yeah. Well, on that note, what was it? It's been about a year now, maybe a little bit, I guess more than that now because of how long I've been on the show. But I went through like a kind of like a username rebranding, or I picked a new username. So mine is thankfully consistent across my services, at least at the moment. You can find me on Twitter, on Steemit, and as well as YouTube. And that's all at Paranoid Coder.
Awesome. And Devin, you've been doing a really good job so far with your monthly videos. Everyone check out Devin as well too, Paranoid Coder. His YouTube channel is going to be down below in the description as well too. December, we said you need to do, like, here's a challenge, 1 video every month. You've been 4 for 4 so far. So May's not over yet.
Yeah, thank you. There's been some late nights on the last day of the month, mostly self-inflicted, I will admit. But, you know, there's definitely been some decent amount of effort involved. I've enjoyed it a lot.
But your flow and everything's gotten better. Like, there were times, like, I remember the first night, because I helped you with that video, and that was just horrible with what we were doing. And then the last time you texted me, you were just like, oh yeah, you're just like, well, I got all the raw footage, and I still need to cut it and upload it. And like 30 minutes later, I saw you upload. I was like, what the damn?
Yeah, and I had like 100 times the cuts that my last one did too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely getting in the groove. I'm getting my flow going, so it feels good.
It's a grind, man. Especially when you're starting out, and you know, 1 video a month. It doesn't sound like much, but you know, all three
comes and goes so quick.
Yeah, all 3 of us can appreciate how much time goes into making a video, and you know, it's especially when you got other things, and we all do have other things going on in our lives. It's tough. It's tough to kind of stick to a schedule sometimes and get things out. So
for sure, yeah, for sure.
And I think this was your intent, but you know, the extra bit of pressure, because I had been talking about this, you know, maybe not every time we talked, but you know, I had talked about this countless times. So it was a nice kick in the rear.
Yeah, I'm happy you accepted the challenge. So, by the way, I don't want you to feel forgotten, but Valtus, thank you for the £2. Very much appreciate. Thanks for answering, guys. Been a fun listening.
Well, yeah, I don't know why you're thanking us. Thank you for being in the chat and participating. Yeah, that's what makes it fun.
Yeah. It's a party.
Yeah, come back. I mean, we'd love to have everyone in the chat. It makes the chat.
And that's pounds as well too. So obviously he's paying overseas across the pond, and that dude's up at like 4 or 5 in the morning right now.
Man, this guy's the real MVP over here. Jeez,
for sure.
Yeah. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching and listening, everyone. And until next month's Mod Chat.
See you later.
Thanks, guys.